Any other additional added or questions?
I do have- So I just wanted to let master plan committee members know that Amy Teravecchia. I know, I'm usually the one telling you to move your mic. Amy Teravecchia has resigned from the master plan committee.
Who did?
Amy Teravecchia. She's got a lot going on right now, and her family is, first priority at the moment. So she's hoping to come back at some point once things settle down a bit. I just want to let you know.
Thank you. We appreciate her letting us know.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Yeah.
relaying that.
That was the only change.
Okay, so we'll move to accept the agenda as approved. So we'll go right to item 1, preliminary feedback from the planning board on chapter and action plan updates. And for those that are not aware, this is Tara Bamford. She's our consultant.
Sure.
She's been working really hard with us. She does a really good job. I cannot speak highly enough about Tara. She does a good job of wrangling us in, keeping us on track. I feel we get a good bang for our buck with her. So thanks for being here, Tara.
We'll forgive you even though you're from Vermont. That's all right.
I don't know.
Well, I have worked in New Hampshire since 1988, so
Just kidding.
I deserve forgiveness.
Well, Tara, at least you're not a flatlander, so.
Yeah, don't ask me where I was born.
So review and discuss chapter 5, land use edits.
You got
What's his
Tom.
position tonight?
He's with you guys.
He's the
He's
planning
with
board
you.
tonight, so there's three.
There's 3 of you.
Three planning board members.
Yeah.
So nobody has a quorum.
No, we do.
We do.
have a
We
quorum.
do.
We do.
We do.
Yeah.
It's
And-
planning board didn't have enough people, but what we're asking you to do is please tell us what you have,
Yeah.
because we got to move
Yeah,
this
we're
thing
more or
ahead.
less just
That's all
looking
this
for
is anyway.
feedback.
To review
Yeah.
from you, tell us what you think.
Yeah, it's just really for feedback.
So we know where you guys are coming from.
So we feel, just to kind of fill in some gaps, we, me and the master plan committee feel like we're moving along well and only have the infrastructure chapter to finish. But before we get too comfortable with that thought, we wanted to hear how the planning board thinks we're doing. And in particular, with the land use recommendations that we've drafted into the action plan, because it's the planning board that will have to be moving all of those forward. There's a lot of zoning changes in there that the planning board would be the ones to take the lead on and write and propose to town meeting. So it's no good that we feel like we're doing great if you guys who are gonna have to carry that ball aren't comfortable with it. So that's why we've been kind of nagging you to make sure you look at that stuff and let us know what you think. So that's agenda item number 1.
Okay.
So this would be,
I did read it, and I mean, as far as the reading, I thought, it had strong bones. It's how things are acted on from this that someplace worries me a little bit. Whether it's, reaching out too far, I mean, let's just start off with, and I don't know enough without more information. The first thing makes me wonder about is this 100-foot vegetation.
I was going to bring that up.
See, once you implement something, it grows, it's everywhere. So, need to know more about that before I could stand behind that. But like I say, I mean, reading through this, I mean, I can see where, everything, is, in a strong path and needs. It's where it's the branches that concern me.
And if I may speak, as Roger was saying, sometimes the way things are just worded, just switching a word or adding a word, or if, an and, or an a, makes a difference of whether People take it differently, like I was talking to you about earlier.
Right, right.
The game wardens getting involved with water crossings and stuff, that it should be worded a little bit differently so that they can't all of a sudden feel as though they've got the power to come in and start telling people how to do the logging. That's what we got state people for. So just little wording things, because I did read it too. Just some things should either be added or.
So if each of you would just like to go down a list, maybe we can, just so we can all be on the same page. If we generally, what we do is say what page number we're on or where we are in the action plan. And then we can all look at the same thing while you're speaking.
So you were referring to number 11, Roger, of the action plan?
Yeah, amend zoning
Amended
ordinance.
zoning ordinance to provide for a 100-foot buffer.
And of course, when I say strong bones, the next one, obviously, continue to address failed septic systems immediately.
Right,
That's a no-brainer.
right.
You know? So now that would bring us on to the next one, which I'm unaware of, so it says RSA, so it must be true. Nobody made it up, I guess, but ensure that shoreline landowners are aware that they are required to obtain a wastewater site assessment prior to sale.
Yeah, it's just an
I
RSA that
just
was
watched that
passed
in the
by the
meeting
state.
today.
So,
I'm
no,
looking.
It's a
So-
requirement. so-
If you
I don't know where he is.
own property within the shoreland,
So I have a house I
Oh,
want to
First
sell.
page, first page, number 5.
It's in the Lakeshore
backwards.
District, right? Or right
Okay.
near any of the ponds.
well,
Jump back to the first
shoreland,
page.
Shoreline, in the Shoreline
that's
District,
250 feet, right?
right? Right, in the first 250 feet. If I go to sell it, there's an RSA says you got to show that your septic system works.
It's that way even in the rural area, because I just sold my mother's house and before we could sell it, the state made us,
It is a state regulation.
yes. So that's even in the rural area
Right.
as well as the wetland area. So
So is that something that just came up, or is it something that's always been, but they just never?
I don't know
anything
how
about?
old it is. It's not terribly old. It's the last few years anyway.
yeah, we sold my mother's house 3 years ago and it was implemented even back then.
No, so it's fairly, because I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
Well, that's the reason.
And that's
why
one
we
of the
put it
reasons
in.
why it's here,
yeah.
That's why we put it in, because people aren't aware of it.
because most people haven't heard of this.
Would it help to go, I have a little bit different version than, because I've continued to update it, but would it be helpful to go through the natural resource and land use action plan items? Like,
I think so. You want to just lead us, Tara?
yeah, I have a little, I have a 622 version. I can put up the version that we sent the planning board if that's going to be more helpful. Need a minute.
My version says 522.
522, huh? Well, let's go with the most current. We can, if we go in order, we'll be all right.
Yeah, so we can
Mhm.
just,
Okay.
The number, my number will just be a little bit different. So
Tara has the current one up on the screen.
I want to even just start at the beginning here with I think the action plan items, if we just not try to wordsmith them with a big group, but just go through real quick, I think that will give us a good idea of how the planning board members are thinking about this. It sounds to me like we're on the right track. Some minor changes will, of course, we're gonna be looking for that. At anywhere possible, we've tried to use words like consider or a minimum of this many feet or whatever, so that you have some flexibility. And having there too, to get feedback and work closely with the public, because that's ultimately who's going to tell you what the right balance is of these things. So I think since we all talked about it before, I added after the last master plan committee meeting, this first kind of general topic recommendation to establish a master plan implementation committee. Basically, the master plan committee is recommending that the planning board make it a standing committee, and that they would, isn't that great that some people want to stay on this path be the ones to go around to other town boards and schedule an annual gathering of town boards to see what's going well, what's not, what should be on the coming year budget and everybody's to-do list to make sure that things keep moving forward.
Okay, so the next one is number 6.
Yeah.
Conduct a septic survey of shoreline properties and encourage landowner cooperation. What is that?
So then the next one was to develop and implement a comprehensive service and groundwater protection plan.
No, the next one was number 6.
She has the updated version on the screen. We have an older version.
Yeah, you,
Well, wastewater, I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about number 6. She must have number 6.
the master plan committee should have the current one. I sent it to you for tonight's meeting. The planning board has had theirs for a couple of months, so you've kept moving forward since they've received it. And
So what are you saying? Number 6 was thrown
it's,
out?
it's number 8 now, that's all. Conduct a septic shoreline. You've skipped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, you're still on the same page. You just skip.
It's just my number 8 there. So you're looking at conduct a septic survey of shoreline properties and encourage.
So Roger, what we're doing is Tara is just leading us because not all of us have the updated one, but she has it. So we were just letting her lead and go down the
I don't
list.
wanna read up there. Half of it I can't see because the sun's on it.
That's okay. I mean, I can make this work. If you want to go to this, your next question was about the septic survey of shoreline properties, and I think Russ can explain
Says
that.
encourage landowner cooperation. So that's not an RSA, that's,
No, that would be something
Right.
the town would say. One of the things that everybody talked about was water quality and concern about not only stormwater, but maybe failing septic systems. And, should we, or could we go and do surveys of septic systems, do dye tests or whatever it is to see if any of them are failing?
a failed system has telltale signs.
Right.
It's called water.
Yeah, but it might, yeah.
So you're gonna go through everybody's backyard and just,
Well, you're gonna
Go
have
through
some
their
lawsuits
system?
there.
Well,
They haven't
I don't know, how are you gonna find out whether they're failing or not?
like, people, when your system fails.
Yeah, but maybe people aren't addressing it.
So it's,
If your leaching system fails, most likely your septic system's gonna be, your septic tank's gonna be backing up.
Right.
so.
Well, not necessarily. Your leach bed could be, you get a lot of elevation change. It could be draining down the hill and going into the lake.
it's also, if I can help Russ, it's also, not just failing systems, but when you're getting nutrients in the lake, which you do know you're getting, or things test high for bacteria, it's also a way to find which septic systems might be contributing to it. And the reason it does say encourage landowner cooperation is you need to send out a letter in advance saying you want to do this and look at the septic system. And if you have a known problem with nutrients or bacteria, you generally put dye in the system, and then you can see whether the dye ends up in the lake or not. So
Yeah, but this is also including rural areas. Have you guys talked with your lawyers to see if,
Well, it says shoreline property.
This is not a law or a rule. It's a recommendation.
Right.
Correct.
And yes, all the
right,
things
it
that you're
says
saying,
shoreline
people may
landowners
not
are
want to
yes,
they're
cooperate.
required to.
Right. People may not want to, but one of the things that we do know is that we have phosphorus problems in the lake. And this is a way to go after
From
it.
my reading, a lot of it's coming from Fish and Game.
A lot of it's coming
lot
from
of it is, but
stormwater
not all.
runoff, but it is also septic systems. too.
It's
And
also
again, this
contri-
is just put in place because between the committee, but also the survey respondents, water quality is obviously for this town a high importance. It's our golden goose egg. So it's just a recommendation to try to help the town.
protect.
To protect
And there's
that.
There's plenty here that will do that. But becoming the backyard Nazis, I won't stand behind that when it comes to the planning board.
what it be-
Roger, the word encourage is an important word.
We're making a master plan. and
Correct. And our plan is to encourage people to check out their septic system. You know, you can't tell them to do it, but you
Right.
can suggest strongly that they do.
It's a
Would that be
it's a
clearer?
strong-
Would that be clearer if we put the word voluntary in here?
In other words,
It would help.
instead
Yeah,
of conduct a septic survey, just
Actually,
say
that-
encourage
that would
landowners.
make all the difference in the world because some people are concerned, some people aren't.
And we mean voluntary, so that's exactly why we need to have these conversations, to make sure everybody is on the same page.
Voluntary. and
It's not
and
mandatory.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That way you
It's
don't-
just something because people are concerned about the quality of the lake water.
Right.
That is what the reason why everybody builds or wants to live here. Because that is, like
It's the goose
Kelly
egg.
just said, that's the golden goose.
And I don't think we have a lead in there, but it wouldn't really be the planning board. That would tend to be the conservation commission, and there's usually student interns that you can get to help with that kind of thing.
But I was gonna say, wouldn't it be also be, somebody agrees to say, would you come and look at my system? It could be the health officer, couldn't it?
When the health officer is involved, it's usually not necessarily just the voluntary thing, but there's a known failure that the health officer can
That's- I mean,
tell DES to make them fix. So that's,
Right, oh, yeah.
it's a little bit,
If it's getting into the lake, it wasn't designed right.
yeah, but and then
Or
that
was-
is
or it's old,
regulatory.
it's Really
I
old.
think-
yeah.
I think this was trying to keep,
Neighbor will smell it anyways.
Exactly. You're gonna have odor, you're gonna have smell, but generally, if somebody has an issue, they call a company to come out and take a look at it and figure out what's wrong with it, and then it gets determined
That's
whether or not it needs.
That's
So-
why I agree with Roger, voluntary.
Okay,
we'll
so
put
I'm
that
just gonna
word-
call a point of order real quick. So we have addressed and added the word voluntary, and I don't want to get too hooked up on each individual item because we have a lot to go over. And this is just a draft. And there's also time to come back and look at it again. So I just want to try to keep us moving along, and please just try to, sometimes people can't hear Tara if she's speaking, so just try to be aware of each other speaking, so we're not over talking each other, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
so what would be the next one that you have concerns about? Let's do it that way, in natural resources. Anything else in these water quality related ones?
The number 7 is automatic. If your septic system isn't within 20 years of age and you want to do an addition or something, you have to, well, you have to at least have a septic plan. You don't necessarily have to install it, but you have to be able to install a system.
Correct.
And I think that's mainly saying ensure that that gets done.
Yeah, this
Correct.
is just backing up what we already have in place.
Now, let me ask you,
No, say continue
what
to,
happens if somebody, like what I did, is I lived in a mobile home and I set up a 3-bedroom system, even though I had 2 bedrooms in my mobile home. And then while I was living in the mobile home, I built my own house with 3 bedrooms. Now, what you've got saying here is if somebody,
But you've probably already discussed that when you
But you're
you
building
had your
permit.
septic plan, right? And you installed your
but yet
septic.
what Roger was saying is if somebody, like, say I wanted to do that now, I would have to turn in a septic plan. Well, my septic plan was done back in the late 60s, early 70s, and I don't think the town of Alton even has, or the state itself even has.
Then I would probably say, obviously, if it's that old, that's gonna be like one of those gray areas. But if you did that recently, and like you talked to the building department or whatever and said, this is kind of like my game plan, and you have it on record as a 3-bedroom septic and it's not failed, then I don't see why that would be
Yeah, you're working with a health officer on
a
it.
problem.
Oh, I realize that,
Yeah,
but
anyway,
just saying you gotta be careful how you word some of this.
but it
So
just,
let me ask a question. I was gonna make it say continue to ensure, but when something goes from seasonal to year round, are you catching all of those?
What did she say?
seasonal,
When people are converting from seasonal to year-round
year-round.
homes,
Oh,
are we catching them?
A lot of them.
I think a lot,
A lot we are, but not all.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's a reason to say ensure rather than continue to ensure.
right,
Mhm.
because there is a lot more conversions to year round, because a lot more people have come to live here in the past year or two.
Well, technically, a septic system isn't, a septic system that gets to sit all winter, it's good because it can,
Right.
but a system isn't designed for 6 months.
Oh, no,
It's designed to go
Year
12 months, so people, it's just because somebody went from seasonal to year round.
but usually when that happens, they add more bedrooms and
Yeah.
things
I was
like
just gonna
that.
say that.
Yeah,
Well, when you add more bedrooms, you're talking a whole new system.
That's correct.
So
You'd have to
that's
apply
already-
to the state
that's
for a new
already in
system.
the process, so.
And I think this number covers that, just says ensure that we do that.
so I guess just for
That's all I'm saying.
transparency purposes, some of these items might be redundant to laws that we already have in place, but it's just backing up. And it's just to ensure that the town has, it's just like a safeguard for the town. Whether we go out and act on that tomorrow, it's really, again, just a safeguard, and it backs up things that we already have in place. So it's,
Well, like I say, I mean, it has good bones.
yeah.
It just, it's the branches that concern me.
Okay.
So pretty close to number 11, number 10.
Yep.
So can you tell me more about the 100-foot vegetated?
Yeah, so this, right now, we have 25 feet, and this is saying, just saying, recommending that you amend the zoning ordinance to a more of a standard 100-foot, which is most of the towns that are aggressive about water quality doing it. Not all town, it's a very difficult one to get past because of the concerns that you're saying, but it's highly recommended if you talk to DES.
So are we saying, so it's a 25-foot buffer now?
Right,
Right.
Want to extend it to 100 feet?
right. Which is pretty common in more,
Common
in
where?
the more aggressive towns that are trying to do this.
That's on new buildings though, not old.
No, that's on any.
Well, if you
any-
were to, if you're 25 feet from it, you're 25 feet from it, you're already there.
Right.
But if you were building a new, developing some more of your property, they'd want to keep you 100 feet away.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now,
That
we're
would be
talking-
That's where it
impossible to
falls
do
on-
up in the shores.
Talking
That'd be
talking
impossible to do
wetlands
up in the shores. You
and
gotta clear
so if you have a
wetlands,
stream
about
and has
100
an
foot.
associated wetland around it, it would be 100-foot setback from the edge of that wetland.
So 200 feet.
Or on one side and the
Well,
other. Yeah.
100,
Right.
that's 200. Yeah, I
Yeah,
Now,
think
the
I
next,
struggle with that one, but at least I understand it now.
yeah, but that's, and sometimes they're treated as an overlay district.
Hmm.
So it's called, I had one in Wyndham, New Hampshire, it was called the Wetlands and Watershed Protection District. And it was an overlay district. That's how it was implemented. And that was done in 1978. So it's not uncommon.
may I speak?
Yeah.
Expanding the setback requirement to include wetlands of any size.
Uh,
Uh,
I had a comment on this one that we were still on first.
Okay,
Okay, so because I heard a conversation about existing buildings, and I can say that all of these that I've written for towns have exceptions in there for if you're already there and you don't have anywhere else to put your addition or your accessory building. I always write in that you can get a permit, conditional use permit from the planning board by showing that it's the only place you can do it. We're not trying to limit anybody's use of the existing property like that.
And that fall under special exception?
No, I usually recommend that it's a conditional use permit from the planning board.
Okay.
It can be a special exception from the zoning board, but you always want to put those things in there. You're not trying to hurt anybody's, enjoyment of their existing home.
Well, you just did, because now you send them to the planning board.
You're just trying to say if there's somewhere else on the lot to do it, that's where you should do it.
When you say that's, existing non-conforming,
I would think so.
Pretty
so
much.
that way you're covered by the planning board and
No, you don't want it to be as strict as non-conforming because you want to make it a little easier than that. But we don't need to be in those weeds tonight. You're free to hire me later on to write the amendment. Give you some examples then.
So then,
Number 11, when that comes to the planning board, we either send it to the zoning board or we chuck it. Is that how that works?
Yeah,
Because it says amend the zoning ordinance.
Right, it would be, if, there's two ways to do it. If you want to create a new district, I believe that would have to be on the warrant article.
Well, this isn't anything about a
Right, the one I was describing. to you,
sorry, I
Roger.
didn't hear that question, but
What he,
Bring your mic down a little bit so she can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so basically, I mean, this says amend the zoning ordinance. So that means that the planning board would be sending that to the ZBA or not.
you'd be sending it to the town meeting.
because you amend the zoning ordinance, and then it would be.
Well, the ZAC committee writes the amendments and then they come
That's-
back to us again. I mean, it gets passed back and
Right.
forth. Then it goes to the people.
But
Correct.
never the ZBA.
Yeah, not the
Well,
The ZB only enforces.
Okay, well, yeah, I know, it's just a lot of the members are ZBA, but ZAC,
Zach.
not ZBA, ZAC.
Okay,
All right, so I think we beat that one enough.
all
good.
right, so moving on from number 11 or 13, if Tara's looking at it. So Lee, what number are you looking at with your question?
Um,
I think he was down to wetlands.
On 16.
16, that's the next page. Don't we have a few before that?
Oh,
Okay, so go ahead, Roger.
Let's just hit the ones you guys have questions on, so.
Yep. I'll go. You said you had some more questions on the one in between there and 16?
I'm just reading them now.
No, I was just on number 16. It says expanding the setback requirements to include wetlands of any size. Are we just still talking around the lakes, or are we talking in rural areas? Because
Wherever there are wetlands.
Talking about the whole town.
What we've said, though, is wetlands of any size that are contiguous to perennial streams, not isolated ones.
Right. So if you have a small wetland, other than maybe a vernal pool, I'm not sure, but say a small isolated wetland that's not associated with a brook or something like that, it would have to be, this would only apply to the ones that are
draining into a stream.
right, that
Well,
are connected, right?
That's this is what I'm saying. Some of the wording sometimes should either add something in or take something out.
Yeah,
You should, I know a lot of people would look at it like I did, wetlands of any size, they freak out. Even though you guys got down, continuous with perennial streams.
right. So they can't not be isolated, okay? We're not talking about isolated ones. These are
Yeah.
ones that actually flow into a stream, that flow into a lake or water body someplace.
would I be right to say that 12 through 15 are redundant?
Not totally redundant, no.
No,
Which one, 12?
No, I mean, they are different takes on the same issue, but they're
Well,
actions that you can take, separate actions.
Stormwater maintenance.
they're all related to stormwater, but they are all different points in the process.
Well, stormwater is already part of a subdivision, a site plan.
Right, so.
But you know what? You have so many loopholes in there. I'm really recommending that you do what this says, review, update, and strengthen them
We don't
everywhere.
have loopholes. We have engineers that design all these things.
Uh-huh.
We don't have any part of it. We're just sitting here while engineers take all the RSAs and the Zs and the Zs and they lay it out. There's no loop.
And that's good, but you have a lot of loopholes for them built into your regulations.
Well, I don't understand the loopholes. They
Well,
collect the water, they hold the water, they clean the water, then they send it on its way.
When my road was rebuilt, they put stormwater management stuff in place. And some of it drains right onto my property. Nobody ever told us that was going on. But that kind of thing, there needs to be some control over in the future.
Because it does happen.
So this is the highway department and a stormwater management plan. Now, if you look over the way Wolfboro did it, okay, and I think a couple of other towns, maybe Moultonborough did it, I'm not sure, but they designed in rain gardens for, you know, all the runoff from downtown. They had areas that they actually built in to control the runoff into the lake. I think that's what this addresses.
Like sediment ponds, you mean?
Yeah, the rain gardens are just
Yeah.
a nice looking sediment.
A swamp or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, but they actually construct these things in the right place so that they're effective. And there's one near the railroad station over in Wolfboro, right by those condos that goes into the back bay. That's an example of one that the town built.
Well, these offenses sound like it's the town. And
It
they
says
just-
highway
they do whatever-
department,
The town
yeah.
does whatever they want. They don't come to the
Well,
planning
that's
board
what
for
we're,
when they're doing
that's why
something.
we're talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah, the planning board's not listed in that one.
CIP committee and the select board.
Yeah.
It's
so-
definitely a concern with excavation of even private property and stormwater management in private property as well as with the town
Mhm.
highways and roads. So it's something that should be mentioned and considered in case of properties that are getting stormwater or water on their other properties when someone's doing excavation.
Somebody
So-
was just at the last planning board
And
meeting
it's a concern.
discussing the water over on Jesus Valley, right?
It's always a concern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not
So
really.
the
Well,
reason
it
for
is a
the,
concern because people will come here to town hall and they'll come to the planning department or the building inspector and complain. Now they're getting water on their property when they didn't before. The trees were removed and the excavating empty lot next door was excavated. Now they're getting water.
Which is exactly what happened at the last planning board meeting, except that person had already spoken with John Dever and that was all worked out in the end, but that did come up at the last board meeting.
Well, so did everything else. I mean, she would just.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying though, but when it comes to water, I mean, you know, if people are starting to get water in their yard, they're gonna be here.
Yeah, and
You
they
know
did-
that.
They go to John and John deals with it.
Yeah,
but
Matter of
let-
fact, I did a job on Bay Hill for Mike Mahoney
Mhm.
and it's like that, well, you know what Bay Hill is?
Yep.
And the people down below, after a while, were getting some water when we got big rains. They talked to John, John talked to Mike, Mike talked to me. I went back to Bay Hill, fixed it and everything is good.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what this is saying.
Right. So there's, I mean,
But-
there's
but
already
this is a-
systems.
This is a comprehensive stormwater management plan, strengthening the town's land use regulations, but improving the town's stormwater infrastructure.
Mhm.
So that's why I think that's why we have highway department, CIP and the.
And the
select
select,
Well,
board,
yes,
that is
of
why,
course.
yeah.
board Because of that, so.
and as far as the planning board's role, the master plan becomes the planning board's recommendation to all of the other town departments and boards.
Right.
Whether you're the lead on the item or not, the master plan has to be your recommendations for how to achieve the goals.
Well, that would be a recommendation. If, once it gets accepted and that stays in there, then the planning board would be recommending to the highway department that this be done.
Right.
That should be the selectmen telling the highway department.
But you can
Do
do
it.
it, you got, it's coming from the planning board
Mhm.
and going to the selectmen and saying, we need to get this done. How much is it gonna cost? We have to have
Right.
CIP funds, or whatever it's gonna be, you know, it's a 10-year program.
And the master plan is a 10-year program set in place. So no matter who's in or out or on or off the board, you have that one constant is the master plan that everybody can work off of.
Right.
So even though a lot of it might be redundant, it's just backing up what the town already has and for the next up in line.
Updating it. A
Right.
lot, just update.
It's things to continue doing, things to strengthen, and new things to consider, all of that.
And I'll agree with that because we just had a development done over on a piece of property that I got that's got 235 acres and they just decided to dump the water on my 235 acres.
Hmm.
Now they created wetlands on my property where it wasn't
Right.
wetlands.
Yep.
So
Yes,
I see what you're saying.
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, that happened to a piece of property we had years ago as well.
It gave me the right to go back and.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
it's redundant, but it isn't.
Right.
You can look at it both ways, but I'll agree with you guys on that one.
Okay.
Because we made the guy come back and
Yeah.
and made him
made them.
drain it on their own property.
Yeah. Okay, so, any other questions, Roger?
15, I guess.
Does anybody
Well-
else have any questions, or is this gonna be their Roger rodeo all night?
Well, I just like when this thing shoots out the other end and you say we're done, it's better to have.
You know I'm just
That's why we
razzing
don't-
you. You know I'm just razzing you, Roger.
It'll be you guys who tell us we're done.
Right.
Well, it's like a lot of times, like when things come down through the ZAC committee, I look at these things and maybe I don't totally understand it, but I know great minds have worked on it. So I give it that,
Yeah.
that's just why I want clarification here, just so I can,
Oh,
so I know.
absolutely.
so
I
I'm looking.
appreciate, Roger. I'm pretty sure that we appreciate that you want clarification, right? You're not just gonna
Okay.
sign off on stuff.
That's
too.
why we're all here.
And I
Right.
do
That's
appreciate.
why we didn't give up on hearing
So
input.
I'm just gonna ask, see now on number 16, I see 25 feet from wetlands.
It says ensuring that all new developments 25 feet and expanding from wetlands and expanding the setback requirements to include wetlands of any size.
Yeah,
If-
we're not recommending 100 feet from wetlands. We're recommending 25 feet from wetlands. I think what Russ was saying is if the wetland adjoined the stream, then it's the wetland plus that 25 feet or 100 feet, whichever's greater.
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, because on the other page, it was 100 feet and now you're looking for
It's
25.
100 feet from the lake and rivers and streams.
Now, what, if I may speak again, should you put in there somewheres too, on seasonal? Where it runs into a perennial stream rather than,
It's all, Lee, it all has
or
to
is that
do-
all,
No, it has to do with the soils. It has to be wetland soils, not, so if you have a seasonal stream and it hasn't developed wetland soils around it, then it's not a wetland.
But we're saying only wetlands that are contiguous with perennial streams, not wetlands that are contiguous with seasonal.
Right. Right, yeah, because you're going down a rat hole when you do that, right?
well, that's why I was saying it.
Trying to get some arms around it, yeah.
I was just trying to cover the bases.
Right.
That's
So she's good pointing out, it's perennial streams that run all the time.
Right. A lot of people read this stuff and they don't even know what a perennial stream is. This is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
We have had that conversation as well earlier in our committee meetings.
And we're trying to make sure in the narrative, in the chapters that we've added any explanatory text necessary. And then this is going to be the action plan at the end. So we're assuming everybody's going to read it cover to cover and have all those answers.
On a lot of our gas stations on the aquifer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Gas stations and repair shops, car
Yes.
repair shops, yeah.
I mean, it's like the center of town down 28, right?
So it is true. I mean, Alton sits on the big aquifer where the water comes from for the wells that are in this thing. And if there were a spill, not necessarily of oil, but of like degreasing agents, the heavy stuff, the chlorine, or this chlorinated stuff, that goes to the bottom of the aquifer and that'll get into a well and you won't have a well anymore for a long, long time. So it's almost like an accident waiting to happen, the way we got it set up.
How many wells,
There are 3 wells that, the one is decommissioned, that was drilled in 1938.
2 are.
That's down near the fire station.
Yep.
There's one in Jones Field that was drilled later, and there's one at Levy Park. So the 2 ones that produce water right now are out of Jones Field and Levy
Larry
Park,
Park.
and they pump up to the reservoir and feed
Yeah.
the town. Yeah. So,
how many wells do we have around these stores and gas stations that are checking for leakage and stuff? I
see. I don't know.
I know Alton Circle Groceries has.
Right, they got some
Yeah.
monitoring wells because they had a release there a number of years ago.
Right.
That was Irving, wasn't it? Or
Well, whoever owned the station at
the
the
truck
time.
rolls?
Yeah, And I think there was
that
another
Started out when Watson's owned it.
and wasn't there another release up on Route 140 near the top of the hill?
Yeah, Irving again.
Yeah. Canadians, But anyway, this aquifer protection overlay district is really important, and
Yeah. Well, that I know. And so, but I also know that on another page, we're going to be looking at building up the town for business. So what we need,
So
so what it needs to do
this
is we need
just
to have some
says-
sort of a system for building the business, protecting the aquifer.
yeah, I mean.
right, and
Correct.
that's why it says best management practices for businesses that use that. So we want to do overall what's best for the town overall, and that has to take everything into consideration, right? So you want your businesses downtown, so you don't want to tell anybody no, but you do want to say, hey, if you want to open another gas station or something like that, that's not pre-existing or auto body, you have to use these measurements are now in place. Kind of like updating your septic over, over decades, all of a sudden you have more, just some more best practice rules.
And also
So that's
looking-
basically all that is.
And entertaining the idea of having businesses outside of the center of town in other zones, and possibly talking about those zones of allowing, this is just talk, of, thinking of different things to do in order to have and bring in business to the
Quality-
town.
quality
And quality
business.
business.
Quality
But it-
business.
In
But-
terms of the businesses on the aquifer, when we wrote the state's aquifer protection model ordinance, it was with that in mind, because you're not unique in that. Almost every northern New England town, the village and downtown areas are where rivers met, and that's also where the aquifers are. So it's a really common problem. So you're just looking like you were saying, it's how you manage the land uses, and some that just shouldn't be there.
But our unique problem is we do not have public septic system in place. Or public system, we have all private septic systems down here in downtown area, which is unlike some of the other towns. Where they have a universal septic system in place.
But the things that we're talking about aren't things that are being flushed. They're things that are being spilled. So
Right.
Okay,
What point do we talk about the village and septic?
so,
This section or?
No, it's not in this section.
It's supposed to be an infrastructure.
so does that answer your question about number 17? Yes, because now you're on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily a question. It's just how,
Right.
that it would be designed to be protected. I mean, if you had a business, like say a gas station, they would have to put a clay liner, put a clay liner
Double tankage and stuff like that.
and all
Tanks.
the things. So it could be here.
Yes.
But if you want it, this is what you got to do.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
That's what that.
Exactly. And
All the
most
protections in
most of the master plan is recommendations, encouragement, again, things to back up what are already in place. So it is a lot of redundancy, but it's good to have.
But in this case, we use the word strengthen because your current aquifer protection overlay district doesn't do very much at all.
Right.
Mhm.
It says where it is.
Right. So
Right,
right now, somebody could come in
Right.
willy-nilly, whatever they want.
Almost, yeah.
It was a problem, even though the state has guidelines, right? If you want to, open a gas station or something like that,
Of course.
you have certain plans, just like when you get a septic design, there are certain things you have to do. But as the town, you always want to have something that you can fall back on as a separate entity, as the town entity. So that's why we put it
As a
in
rule,
there.
they follow the guidelines of the state, but also implement their own for the town.
Right.
Individual.
Right.
And it also gives the town the ability to enforce it rather than relying on the state to have time to send something
Exactly.
down. What's next?
At 18, 19.
Don't bring up the state. I just got done doing a job for the state where they were having pollution from railroad ties being stacked next to the lake.
Oh,
That's
You know how
brutal.
many thousands of railroad ties, all we did was move them in different spots all over the New Hampshire and Vermont.
Mm.
It's,
Have you seen all those railroad ties down, not to go off subject, but down by Buffalo Wild Wings? I don't hardly ever go down there. I was down there, well, at this point, it's probably been a couple months, but they had nothing but, thousands of railroad ties there. I was like, oh my gosh. You can't see them because they're way off to the side, but
Mhm.
that is not good.
no.
Be careful you don't mix up railroad ties with those bridges they're using, the mats they're using in power.
Yeah,
lines.
no, yep.
So you had 21, Lee, that you thought number 21 was you mentioned it to me.
Yeah, that was the one that I was saying that it sounds to me like we could open up a little can of worms that the New Hampshire Fish and Game could come in and start, even though we're talking stream crossings and a stream, according to the state, is anything that you can paddle up.
Right. Well, this one has the responsibility is through the Conservation Commission, the planner, highway department, New Hampshire DOT, and emergency management. So it really doesn't impact like the forestry rules, like we were talking about. If you're doing a logging operation, you can go in and you have, if you do it, you have best management practices for crossing a stream. That doesn't change. This would be for if the highway department is doing any new culverts and things like that, they would just have,
Right, but
better design.
as I was saying earlier, what Fish and Game, when I talked to them, I should say state, not the Fish and Game, I'm sorry. What they consider a stream is anything that can be paddled up or anything that fish can travel up. Now, it doesn't take a very big stream for fish to travel up, and if you start talking about getting Fish and Game involved with it,
Well,
they could take a stream this wide that we're crossing right now.
Yeah, but again, this is really aimed at the highway department and
It's also it's New Hampshire Fish and Game's stream crossing inventory is an existing database that includes a lot of culverts in Alton. And what this is saying is you guys, I guess, didn't even know the data was there, but it's rated for aquatic organism passes. They're rated for which ones are most likely to blow out in a storm and leave your EMTs and fire department unable to get to a certain neighborhood. So you can use that database to prioritize culverts for replacement and to get grant money to identify who's your most likely candidate to give you grant money to replace different ones. So it's talking about an existing data set.
So doesn't the highway department have this information?
Yeah.
Culvert
Yes.
information? Why
Yes.
do we need? the fish-
I'm betting that they don't have this data.
I wouldn't think the Fish and Game would know any more about a culvert than the.
It's the Fish and Game Department's inventory.
They are the ones that inventoried all the culverts. and
All the
streams.
culverts.
It's
in
the
town.
inventory.
It's an online GIS database.
That little pamphlet I gave you.
Oh,
Show it to Roger.
It's an online GIS database where you can click on the culvert and get all the data and pictures of it. And it's maintained by New Hampshire Fish and Game.
I got a question.
yeah, but what I'm saying too is in logging operations, you have roads that the state and federal government has funded money for to put roads out across large quantities of property that I've seen 4-foot culverts running through there because of the streams. So
Yeah,
does
they
it,
didn't do the inventory on logging roads.
well, it's not really considered a logging road anymore. It's as much as you can drive a car down them now and.
I mean, they're town roads and state roads that they
Oh,
did. the
town roads is,
inventory.
okay.
So I would just like to point out that it says work with Fish and Game and other partners to utilize, because it's the Fish and Game's online database. That's why we're working with them.
That's what it produces, that
That's
map.
why, because it's the Fish and Game's online database. So if you utilize the Fish and Game database, then as a town, like if the highway department's doing something then we can maybe just reconnect and improve our aquatic habitat through that. It's just having that database, but it is the Fish and Game's database.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that was just my question. I was just.
Okay.
I just
It
didn't
it
wanna-
is their database because we've had it before from them to let us know which ones look like it's an area of concern.
And so the same thing with this next one, which is 22, is the same idea. These wildlife corridors. So this is number 23 is another wetlands thing, but it's vernal pools. One thing we're not doing, Tara, in this one is talking about any buffers around vernal pools, and those are usually recommended.
Is that a buffer so the wildlife can't go there?
Well, all the amphibians migrate to the vernal pools, and they're usually within like 100 feet of around them, or even further than that. So
Yeah, you're right, Russ. We didn't land on that as a recommendation, I think, because we were trying to find what the town is most likely to accept as a step toward greater protection, not everything that would be ideal. And vernal pools most of them are not mapped.
right. I mean, they can be usually when we get a subdivision, if the wetland mapping has been done correctly, they'll show vernal pools on there. So
Right.
Now,
Right.
if I may speak again, do you guys have anything implemented like if the state's building a section of highway and they have to drain 5 acres of wetlands, they have to create 5 acres of wetlands somewhere else? Do you
They-
guys have that?
we don't have it. That would be through DES. I mean, that would probably be settled at DES's level.
Well, I mean, right, but do we have anything in town?
Conservation Commission would, we
You
only can
don't.
make recommendations, but
You don't right now. And
Really don't.
one thing that having local wetland regulations would do is stop the state from being able to do that. And, but Russ, what you were saying about mapping vernal pools when it's a subdivision or site plan, that's still not gonna catch all the ones on existing lots. So it's
Right.
pretty impossible to implement.
I think back in the day, Hannaford had to do that. They
Right,
created that one down on 28. But I think now, from what I got from Scott, is the state's just looking for money. They're not worried about creating the pool. They just want the money.
But that money goes back to towns and groups that apply to it to do things like replace problem culverts.
I would also, if
Money
I,
goes into a mitigation fund.
I'm sorry, Tara, but when Tara said grants, I just wanted to point out also that a lot of times when department heads apply for grants, who they are applying to will look directly at the master plan. I was asked specifically by a department head to make sure we included certain things, verbiage in the master plan, because the last time they went to apply for a grant, they were asked if that was in our master plan.
about creating wetlands if you.
No, this is not about wetlands. And I'm saying a lot of times, certain areas will, if you're applying for a grant, those people will look to your master plan to see if
See
that
what's
is
in there.
in there.
Yeah.
And then that could be a condition of whether you are granted the grant or not, if you're awarded the grant or not.
Depending
So
on
that
what it
might be
is.
another reason why you see something in here. Again, maybe redundant or maybe just verbiage, just so it's in there. So if a department head goes for that grant, it shows something about stormwater management or whatever the case may be.
Well, because the only reason I'm asking that also is it's in the state of Maine. We did a big development down there and it impacted a lot of wetland area. And I don't know if anybody knows where Dam Site Road is down in Sanford, Maine. They ended up having to create 240 something acres of wetlands in order to put this development in.
can be that. I mean, and then in New Hampshire, like we were saying, is we have the ARM fund. So
Yeah.
it may be cheaper for the developer to say, look, I'll just pay you for the damage and we'll do it that way.
If they can't find the land to rebuild.
Right. But just a little further on 23. So what this is it's asking the Conservation Commission to work with the planning board and the building department to educate people about vernal pools. Because Tara's right, we don't have them mapped all over the place on existing properties. But if somebody were to, be working on their property, if they were willing to let the Conservation Commission come out and say, here's your vernal pool right here, and this is how it functions, and work with them would have no regulatory authority at all. You just simply working with them, trying to educate them about it. That's all.
Again, it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
And if they are shown on the subdivision and site plans, you can encourage the developer to move away from them and consider.
Next up,
Consider the 2008 Scenic Resources Inventory. Plans for conservation.
So that was done by, Scenic Resources Inventory was done by Lakes Region Planning when we belonged to them. And we got this report. So,
Is that like going up Route 11 in the scenic areas?
yeah, the scenic
Yes.
view, or, you know, if you're looking at tops of hills, like we've been trying to conserve the tops of the Morse Preserve and all that, Alton Mountain, the whole top of it. Right now, it's been done. The Forest Society has actually finished that project. 500 acres up there now is added to the Morse Preserve.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's the type of thing is that there are things that either you see from a distance that look beautiful, or you're up on them, you can look down and see a view. So,
So would they log it heavy, you mean, or did they?
oh, no, it's
No?
going into conservation. So it's between the state forest and the Morse Preserve. There's a 460 acre piece, 260 acre piece there, and another 200 and something down at the end of Jesus Valley Road. So,
Yeah, you just gotta be careful about your runoff, because didn't they do that on Route 11? They hit it pretty heavy and.
they're not logging it. They're not logging it.
They're not logging it, no.
yeah, we're
Preserving it.
conserving it.
Hiking and
Conserved.
We're making it green space. We're keeping it green space. So we want to keep it conservation for the
Not to s-
trails, the hiking.
Not to say that in the future, they might not do a logging operation because it's a forest society. They can do that,
Right.
but they would have to comply with all the rules. But for the most part, it's a piece of conservation land.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just getting
Yep.
back to this is, and we're using that report that was done back in 2008 to.
And for instance, from the master plan survey, top 3 on the list was hiking trails, connecting trails, things like that.
Right.
Obviously, Mount Major
Mhm.
is huge draw. So that 200 plus acres down at the end of Jesus Valley, if you recall, I think it was last year or the year before, I mean, COVID, we had everybody out and about. People were complaining about people in their backyard. So the Forest Society being able to conserve the rest of that space over there adds tremendous value to that area and to our town. So
Can I just ask one question? And it's got nothing to do with the master plan and stuff. I've always been curious, there's many people that go up Mount Majors. Where do they go to the bathroom?
In the port, now that we have porta potties.
There's porta potties down there.
Most of
no
the-
way. Oh, at the bottom.
At the bottom, not at the top.
No,
In the parking lot.
If you'd like to
Encouraged not to
carry
go
one
there.
up, I'll give you.
I'm talking about. what's
Yeah.
halfway up.
Yeah, that's true. You know, people go in the woods.
Well, the same place,
So
the
it's
same
done.
place that they've been doing it forever. I mean.
Oh, yeah. I
Right.
know, but-
Yeah.
But there are
before-
some in the parking lot.
Before it only used to be, 50, 100 people.
okay, so maybe we're gonna wrangle back around.
I was just curious. I always wondered, because I come trucking down through there sometimes and it'll be miles of cars. And I'm like, where are they going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Bringing us back,
Yeah.
number 26,
20.
should the highway department be included as part of that?
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
Which
Under
one
considered
is that?
local scenic.
About
Consider
scenic
adopting
roads.
local scenic roads. It would probably be like 28, maybe on yours.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah. And
Scenic
considering the
road
highway
ordinance.
department in with that,
So Bob was saying we should put highway department in as well.
That's a good one.
as well as Conservation Commission, Select Board, Planning
Yeah.
Board.
So
And
what's a scenic road ordinance?
It has to do with the trees and stuff like that.
Stone walls, trees,
Stone walls.
the way it looks.
Mhm.
And so that's the kind of thing that's explained in the text, and then this is just, the
Okay, so,
recommendation language that goes with it, but it's a local scenic road ordinance. You as the town meeting declares certain roads to be local scenic roads, and then if the highway department or utilities are doing work that's gonna involve large trees or stone walls, the planning board has to have a public hearing on it first. And that's really all there is to it. It just kind of enhances consideration of the things that are giving the scenic road a high value. Doesn't control any private activities.
Power company comes in and does whatever they want.
Not necessarily with it, if you
Not
have,
without having a public hearing and,
They've got an easement.
They have an easement right
To
down.
cut through, yes.
Right. So I'm not, we're talking the side of the road. Now, I know that the stone, I think there already is something about stone walls. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to.
You can't remove stone walls that are boundary lines. You can remove inner stone walls, but anything that is used as a boundary line marker, you cannot use.
So I knew there was something with stone walls.
this is
There's
talking
reg-
about along the roads.
There's
Along the
regulations.
roads,
Along the roads.
that's gonna be a boundary line 9 times out of 10.
Right.
The power company has an easement all the way to the stone wall, whether you say yes or no. Or
But,
You have to.
okay. But I don't think it's a bad idea to have.
And again, it's
Scenic
something that's
road or-
already in place, so it's just backing up what is already there.
well, no, it's, you
no.
don't,
No.
you don't have any local scenic roads right now. You would put this in place for some,
Right.
And now you're gonna go around, how are you gonna call a road scenic?
Well, usually where it comes from is the people who are along a road petition for it.
yeah.
And that happens all over the state, you know.
Excuse me.
It's pretty common.
And the reason they do is it gives them a voice before the town comes and, or power company comes and cuts big trees and massacres the stone walls.
Well, I think the power company's still gonna come and clear their lines. Stone walls are a different animal.
A lot of those roads have had power lines on them for years, and they have, 100-year-old sugar maples and stuff along the side. And that's what gives it its character, you know?
Yeah,
Right, but if they get in the way of the wires, they can.
yeah,
They can trim back up to 25 feet from.
Yeah, they can.
Case in point, look at our town tree.
my brother had an apple tree, a flowering apple tree, had it forever. They came in last year, gone.
Well, all the trees across my lawn, I come home one day and it looked like somebody went right under the wires with a chainsaw and just.
So,
Snip them all off.
so if we could just move on, just because there's a
Well,
lot still.
you're gonna add, you said you're gonna add something to that, the highway
The
department?
highway department to
Yeah,
that. list.
I did add it here.
Okay. Considerable.
I think 27 is redundant.
That's okay.
Redundant with what?
Well, there's already,
Well, for conservation, the other one was about considering that scenic view inventory, okay? This has to do with guidelines for development on certain hillsides that may be even privately owned, that aren't, that aren't in conservation.
Is there a slope requirement for that?
We do have a 25, is it 25%? We have a steep slopes
Water.
rules
Right.
on that, but, yeah.
I mean, some of it, nobody wants to look at somebody else's house, but everybody wants their own house.
Well, that's the nice thing about the
Down the lake, and
design.
you look up the mountain, a lot of the people up there, they've all got the metal roofs,
Conservation
they
Commission.
cleared,
good on that.
they bought the land, that's their land to
Right.
do with,
Right, and if I could explain the way we've written the model design guidelines. You're not telling somebody they can't build there, but you're telling them things like they need to leave a filtered view of trees in front and not cover the whole thing with reflective glass. So they still have their view, but your view of that hillside isn't massacred by it.
Would it help on this one here, of not just the planning board, but the Conservation Commission on this as well,
Well,
for consideration?
I think that's one we'd throw out at the planning board. Because now you're telling me I can't build the house I want, and if I build the house I want, I can't have a view.
Well, you can have the view.
Somebody else is gonna see my windows, and they're not gonna be happy. And the Conservation Commission now is gonna get behind it. No, you can't do that.
But did you know there's
Going
different?
to
kinds
consider.
of- Did you know there's different kinds of glass that have different reflectivity? You're not telling them they can't have their window. You're telling them what kind of window they can have.
But now you're still telling them what kind of house they can and can't build.
That's right. So and that's why we want to see how you guys feel about these things, because it would be you that recommends this to town meeting as a zoning amendment.
Wouldn't it depend upon the elevation, how quickly the elevation changes from house to house as to how high one builds, so that the other one can still see over, if that's what you're concerned with? We already do this in a way on the lake with lakeshore residential properties. You can't block the view of someone behind you.
Right.
When you do an addition or you have height restrictions,
Right. If
so
somebody's got a
people
view,
can
you
see
can't
over.
take it.
So this falls under the same category
Not
as
quite,
if you're on a hill.
not quite. So you're.
No, that's not what it is.
You're looking at Alton Mountain Road coming down the hill, and you see all the people that built their houses, cleared the trees down, so now they have a view of the lake. So
I could show you pictures of a hillside.
this would nix that.
Mhm.
Because you're looking at shiny roofs and you're looking at windows.
Well, go along 28A.
Right.
On the right-hand side. I've done 4 house lots in there that we've cleaned right from, what's the name of that road that
Cleaned everything right out.
Sanctuary or whatever it is.
Sanctuary Road, yeah,
And down to the 20.
all the way right down to
did
28A.
Oh, I just wondered who did that.
And they're gonna be building up here,
Yeah, I know.
so they get the.
So they want to clear everything out below them.
But yet the lots are big enough that they are subdividable down below. If
Mhm.
somebody wants to take the time to put in, go to the state and get a entranceway put in,
Right.
which would make it so that what Roger's saying, and I'm agreeing with. This guy down below that just bought, all of a sudden turns around and goes, well, geez, I don't like the glare coming off his windows in them. So, yeah, I kind of agree a little bit with Roger. on this.
I think one of the things that 27 is trying to address is the concept of putting specifically to the word ridge line. If somebody wants to put a house right up on top of the ridge,
Mhm.
so it's viewable from 20 miles away, I don't think we want to have that encouraged.
Why?
Why?
I bought the land. This is the house I want to build, and I want to see 20 miles away.
Have you
Well,
been,
that's the
But
purpose
you
of
gotta
putting
do
it there.
in such a way that it ain't an eyesore.
Oh,
right?
Oh,
but
my
have you-
house
have
an
you-
eyesore?
Have you been up Plymouth and gone down towards the Polar Caves? Every ridge top mountain's got a house sitting right on top of it.
Kenny Mountain Development up there. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, look at Puzo's house. When he first built that.
Yes.
I mean, everything was cleared and I was like, oh, God, now you hardly even, you don't even.
It's hard to see it now.
You don't even notice. It's not a big deal.
Well, there's
not a big
a,
deal now until there's 1,000 of them.
there's a new lot on Cherry Valley Road on 145 acres on top of that hill. They cleared the top of the hill and it's for sale for 1.7 million, that property. And somebody's, will buy it and put something on top of it. So that's.
Mhm.
So does this recommendation go away?
No,
It will when it gets to the planning board.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that,
Okay, so
all of this is going to be done. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to hear all these comments. You guys are going to hear the comments. And then
Well,
your
well,
plan,
So your-
let's move on.
Your suggestion then is to
Well-
eliminate this one down the road.
Hold on, Russ. That's not how it is. That's not the process. This becomes your recommendation to the planning board.
right.
They tell me to make the changes they want to make, then they have the public hearing. So that's why we want to make any changes now that they're telling us they want.
Right.
Mhm.
You
So,
don't have a public hearing on it. The planning board does.
so what we're going to consider, well, I misspoke, but so you're going to consider some of these things. I think after tonight, you guys are representing the planning board, say what you shouldn't be in there.
Right.
Right.
The
That one.
only one I'm saying is gonna probably, if I'm able to vote, I'll, is that hillside one. because-
Take that one right out. That's what you're saying.
That's a waste of your time.
Okay,
Okay,
so
all right,
then,
all right.
I'm gonna mark it so that we know we need to do something different with that.
Because, I mean,
I-
go
So-
up, go up,
Oh, yeah.
By all means.
go up
My
the
my
north
only
side
thing
of.
is, coming from a different perspective,
That's what we want to, that's what we need to hear. That's exactly why we're having this meeting.
seeing this happen, and you build one, and then, like you say, then there's 10. And you take the beautiful hillside that is now a development. And to me, what I'm picking up from what the survey was going with, this is what the residents want.
Right.
This is what we're looking for, not looking for what it's in your, I understand where you guys are coming from, believe me. But I'm just saying, having seen this, and where the residents are getting what they want is from where they bought the land, where you got more. So
Yeah, I also saw where they
that's-
do that and they move, but now you're stuck with it.
Who does what and then they move?
They build a house and they move.
Yeah, so
So then
somebody else buys the
I'm
house.
just giving you another perspective.
But what I'll continue to advocate is
Looking at it, you're infringing on somebody's rights where there's also where people
Whose
move
rights
here.
are you infringing on?
it's not an either or though. That's the thing with the design guidelines. I can
I'm sorry.
I can show you a hillside that's covered with houses and you wouldn't even know it. And I can show you another hillside that's made the lake, it's across from just an eyesore because they're all just standing out and bare with erosion in front of them. There's also water quality issues when you clear the whole hillside. So, I mean, my point is just, it's not an either or. It's not that you can't build there, it's how you build. And yes, it's more expensive to build without clearing the whole hillside, but there's a public cost to doing it too.
I would also like to take this moment of an opportunity to just say that we're just a committee of different people. I'm a business owner, Paul's a business owner, we have residents, we have retired people here. So I own property and houses in town. I don't want anybody telling me what to do with my property necessarily. So that's not where we're coming from. But as the master plan committee, we did have to take into consideration all of the survey results we got, and we have to come from a town perspective. So just try to keep that in mind. Like when we propose a guideline, one, it's a guideline, it's not an RSA. And it's really for the protection of the town. And what, like Tara said, it may be more expensive to build a certain way, but at that point, I think we're growing with the times as well a little bit, because that's kind of the direction a little bit we're going in. So again, it's just a guideline. And I certainly am not trying to tell you what to do with your property necessarily, but I do want to, you have to keep that natural resource, which is this whole chapter, is vital to this town. Vital. So that's just a little background of this section, right? So I know you guys come heavy from like the business owner perspective and building and logging. I'm the same. We're all
We're all
do
there with
that.
you.
Yeah. So, but we're not like the committee trying to tell everybody what they can and can't do. That's not what we're here for. So I just wanted to say that.
Once we did the survey, what we got back for information was the average from the people, they wanted to preserve and protect as much as possible.
Right.
You know, allow development, tastefully done, and allow businesses and to grow as we need to grow. And as the town grows, we know it's people coming in and they're developing and moving from various states and areas are coming into the area, but to keep it so it just doesn't look like a mess in the
Right. And
next,
this
in
isn't-
15 years from now.
And this isn't apples to apples, it's more like apples to orange a little bit, but like when you do a site plan, you have a new build and you have to take into consideration your lighting and things like that. When you're building on the ridge, we're just asking you to take into consideration some
That's it.
guidelines. That's all it is. It's a guideline. We're not setting a precedent of an RSA or anything like that.
I think what one of the things we want to protect against is a helter-skelter kind of development,
Right.
Yeah.
especially where it might interfere with what the beauty of the town.
And
Protecting
again, it's kind of like
protecting the heritage, protecting the
natural resources.
natural resources of what we have in this town.
It's kind of
And
like
that's all
when we
what's
say we
important.
want business in town, we want good quality business. Nobody wants a box store to come in town. That's not what we're saying, right? So it's about bringing and just keeping and growing the town in a way that is sustainable for what it
Tastefully
is.
done.
Yeah, because we are a tourist community, so you have to take that into consideration.
He just mentioned helter-skelter development, while going up Alton Mountain is considered helter-skelter, because like Roger said, somebody buys a piece of property, they got 5 acres, they smoked it right down to their boundary line so they could see the lake.
Mhm.
Whether other people like that or not, that's their right. I'm not saying.
Right.
And usually the people that are complaining about this don't own much more than a half an acre of their own, and they,
All,
Get it?
you know what I'm getting at?
but once again, it's only a suggestion. If you're the developer, you come in, how about somebody coming up to you and say, geez, you know, I know you want to do all this and tear everything down, but consider this. Consider not taking out so many trees, or consider not doing certain things. So it's only a guideline and a suggestion.
Like I would have
You know what I'm saying?
suggested that the development at between the central school and Scott Williams Development, I would have suggested we keep a tree buffer zone there. And it would have just been a suggestion, right? That's what this is. It's just a guideline.
The suggestion.
All right,
where?
so maybe on that one, from 4, consider proposing design guidelines. Take that out and reword it into something like, you know,
Courage.
Encourage.
Design guidelines.
No, encourage.
We're good. I've already got that in my notes in front of me here to
Okay.
change that one. So that's why I didn't delete it. I wrote some
We'll
words
soften
to talk about. So
Yeah.
Encourage
got it.
proposal.
encourage, that's, you know,
Maybe
that's
the
good.
word guidance instead of guideline would be a good use.
Guidance is good. Guidance is good.
I gotta change it in the text first. So I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Reword it.
Yeah.
so
that-
I think we
move
have
on.
beat 27 sufficiently. Okay.
This is great. This is really helpful.
That's why I said I had read this earlier, and I just had a lot of concerns with some of the word, and
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's
That's
exactly
why
why
you're
we're
here.
having, yeah, exactly why.
That's why
we're
you're
having
here.
a meeting.
I'm
Very
not-
helpful.
I'm just saying, as it's worded now, but
Yep.
if we're gonna put instead of guidelines.
Yeah, well, let's not beat it anymore.
We use the word encourage in another area
Yep.
on number 28 on encourage owners. And that's
Yep.
basically what this whole format is about.
Well, some are, some aren't, but we'll make sure
know.
that they're matched up right.
Okay, so next, anybody?
We getting to the end of conservation here.
Seems like it.
To
Mhm.
continue to ensure that the land use change tax continues to be collected at the appropriate times. Has they not been done at the appropriate times? They've always been done.
It's
To
supposed,
me,
Usually is.
it's supposed to be done like when it happens.
Well, it's why it says continue to ensure, because in some towns, sometimes the ball does get dropped that when
I Yeah,
When
I
the
don't, think we are,
development is incremental.
I don't think that we're dropping the ball on that. I think it's being collected when it should be
It
collected.
is.
I mean,
That's why it says continue.
Can just continue to do that. Continue to make it on time
Yep.
is what, not that we do have a problem.
collecting from the state, you mean, or?
No,
No,
no, the
from the
land use
landowner.
change.
Landowners.
So if I take some of my land out of current use, I gotta pay,
the
when,
penalty?
when that transaction takes place, the deed is changed, you gotta pay that tax.
Yeah, I did that on my mother's 8 acres.
But why I usually, put it in there as a reminder is sometimes towns miss that when development is incremental.
So I thought already that the land use tax went to the Conservation Commission.
It's the first 20,000 and then 50% of above
Of
of
the
everything
remainder?
after that, right? And that was
First 20 and then 50%.
of
the
the
remainder.
remainder, yeah, that's collected that year. The reason for this is because there's some rather major pieces that need to be done around Mount Major, and that's, it's gonna take funds to get that done. This could be relaxed in later years, but if we were able,
Like the excise tax in Massachusetts?
well, not really, because if you've accomplished your conservation plan, there's really no need to have it that much anymore.
Well, obviously, you've never lived in Massachusetts.
Yes, I have.
So you know what the excise tax was? That was for the war.
Right.
And they forgot to cancel it.
This is New Hampshire, I think, right?
No, I know.
Okay.
But you were
Okay.
saying a temporary tax.
No, I didn't say it was temporary. I'm just saying there's an objective to get to, okay? And one of the things we're gonna need is not only what the town can provide, but significant donations are gonna be needed in order to get that done up there.
Okay,
That's
so
not up to
moving
the
on.
whole- that's not up, that's on conservation land, you're saying?
Yeah, that would be on, no, it goes into the conservation. Right now, the town of Alton has a conservation fund, which we used some of it the other day to help the Forest Society to get that project done. We're just saying is that beef up the amount that we get from the land use change tax for a number of years until we can get those big projects done.
Oh, instead of getting 20,000 and then 50%, maybe going 20,000 and then,
Hey,
Well, you do the whole thing. You say all of it goes to conservation. Many towns have done this.
yeah.
They achieve their conservation plan.
Where's the other 50% go?
It goes into the general fund to offset taxes. So people, one of the arguments against the current use program is that people who put their land into current use get a break on it, right? They like, it was what they pay for taxes. And the rest of the town has to come up with the money to pay whatever the current year's bills are.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm logging a piece of my property right now that I own, doing 35 acres. And I'll tell you what I paid in on taxes last year on my reporter cut wanted to make me drop over and,
Are you talking about
the ground.
timber tax?
yeah, so,
Yeah.
so when people start saying, oh, the people are getting a break, well, these large landowners don't get that much of a break when they fill out of a.
Yeah,
a
if you
timber
go
cut.
into logging, you got to pay the
Well,
stumpage.
90% of the people that are in land use have,
They don't know that.
well, they usually, what's that word I'm trying to think? Get foresters in there and they do selective cutting and they do a good forestry practice. That's why they keep the large land, because trees that are 50 feet tall don't feed animals and you don't get any animals around them, so.
So at this time, I'd like to welcome Drew
Hey, Drew.
to the meeting. Hi.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And I guess we could move on.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to change the page and now we're starting at 32. We're in the action plan, Drew, which looks like this, which I have.
I gave him another one.
Okay, just checking. Okay, so we're on,
Which was me for,
um,
I don't think you
We're
have
on
it.
this one.
it's like the third page. Third page, no, nope, it looks like this.
It's the second document in that packet.
second document in this,
Yep.
look like that.
That one.
Yep. And we're on the third page. No, we're actually swept over and we're on
32.
32.
32.
Number
Item
32.
32.
Mhm.
Okay.
Which I believe would be 34 for Tara. Yep, okay.
If you
So,
got the new one,
um,
it might be 34, if you got the updated plan. it'd be-
No, nobody has the updated ones. None of us do
No, it
anyway.
looks same as yours.
Okay. Yeah, well, I know a few of the
So
people got
starting at
updated.
32 for this page, any questions?
So resources and benefits, what's,
So, when you're looking at land for conservation, it's wildlife, water quality, recreation, forestry resources, all the things that it contains. And usually you score that stuff so that like if you apply for Moose Plate funding or something like that, you have to do that anyway.
so that's the resources like moose plates. And so look for any,
Yeah, because you want, those were set aside to do those types of things, those funds. And so you want to try to compete for them by showing that the benefits are broad.
okay, so 34, 35, and 36, I think they're all covered by the planning board, except for the one where now you want to tell people in their own house that they can't have these lights that they've had lighting up their yard for their own safety.
Which number is that?
That would
35,
be,
35.
35.
No, I think they're down to 36.
36, yeah.
Constructing homes, garages, et cetera. I mean, everybody's got the,
Well, when constructing new ones, I think that's all they're talking about.
well,
Yeah.
that's more likely where you're gonna get the,
Kickback.
no, I'm trying to think of the stupid lights there, the type of lights.
The down facing lights for the LEDs.
LED, that's what.
LED lights.
LED lights. I mean, because they're a bright white. They're not a,
Yeah.
they're
They have.
No,
a-
they make different ones. They don't have to be bright white.
Scott always talks about the warmth of the light. and it
Right,
has a-
exactly.
1,000
Yeah,
Kelvin.
you're talking 3,000
watt.
versus
Yeah.
up to,
Yeah.
4,000.
The 5,000, which
Yeah.
is white, white, white.
Right. It makes it more of a natural light.
So this is a building code recommendation. This is actually saying if you're gonna add a new shed out back and you're gonna put a light on the outside of it, it should be X, whatever that is. Yeah.
I think we usually go with 3,000, don't we?
It's pretty common, I think, that these days, people.
On-
3,000 is
on
common.
commercial,
On commercial, yeah.
commercial, not, we haven't governed
Houses,
houses.
right, so that's new. That's new. That's saying if you're gonna add on to your house or something like that, you're gonna put up new outside lights.
Oh, is
Build
it
the building
new or
code.
you want it to be new?
What do you mean? What you want it to be?
I mean, is it something that's already enforced?
No.
No,
this
it is not.
So it's,
This is implement a lighting requirement in the building code that says that if you're gonna build something new on your property or get a building permit and put new lights up, they should be the new kind of lights, not the old kind of lights.
Which,
Now,
which
now you're
is
gonna
just
run
like
into-
updating your plumbing or anything else has to be up to code. It's just
no,
about
no,
lights.
no, not
No,
necessarily.
No, it's not the same as that, but
Well,
it's like telling somebody not to put up a 30-foot pole and put spotlights on the top of it on residential so they can see their driveway, which would be out of the ordinary and a little ridiculous. It'd be a little too bright. Or in their house, having lights all the way around. If they're in a close knit neighborhood, it's shining in everybody else's light, windows and everything else. So it's consideration for other people is all
Well,
it is.
that's-
But you're not saying that on there.
Yeah,
In any
basically,
house, yeah.
and it's not as much, I mean, obviously you don't want to be shining at somebody else's.
Right,
window because
and
it's
that's
not
what,
doing you
that's
any
what
good
this is
anyway.
talking about.
Well, this is telling you now you got to use the dim lights,
But, oh, they're not,
but dim.
Well, not
No,
dim,
you're not talking about dim, you're talking about shielded.
a shielded light makes a difference.
That's what dark skies are about, shielded lights.
it's putting the light down where you need it at the proper intensity that you need. That's all. It should be bright enough to work.
So that you can
It's
see,
just
but not,
down.
not spotlights that are
But it
lighting up
is,
the woods.
it is a
I think we're-
recommendation of a building code change is what you're saying here.
But we're also, we're taking real black and white extremes here. And I think that there is kind of this middle reasonable ground
Mhm.
that we can kind of say, you want to focus your light toward the ground, not upward,
Right.
and not straight out. And and perhaps even put a foot candle maximum requirement around the residence. And I don't think it's unreasonable, and I don't think it's uncommon either in other
It's not.
communities.
Well, let me ask you a question, if I may. Before my mother could have her cataracts done, they have to become what they call ripe. And she had floodlights. I mean, they were pointing down at the ground, but from her garage
Mhm.
to her house was like 100 feet. So she had floodlights where she normally had.
Mhm.
And she had us put floodlights out there because with the cataracts, if she got home in the dark, which she tried not to, but it would
right, but I
happen.
think it's probably extreme. One, we're talking about newer buildings, right? So just to implement something for newer, but also I think it's more like for the skies, but like
Protecting
if
the
her
skies.
floodlights were facing the street, and there would be an issue, right? But nobody has a problem with your mom having floodlights wicked bright so she can walk into her house.
Right.
It's not like we're gonna turn into the light police.
And
But
the-
I'm
that's
more
all.
concerned that she was driving home at night and parking
The other
It's,
thing,
it's also,
sometimes when she's coming home from the hospital because her husband's in there dying, he didn't have a choice, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's regulated enough with the commercial. I mean, I think that was the focus was to get the commercial because you have parking lots.
Yes.
I think what the intention here was lighting that's permanent on all the time. Not like your mother hits a switch, turns it on, then gets in the house and turns it off. That's not the kind.
Automatic permanent lighting.
Yeah, that's not, that kind of thing is not what's being considered
Let's look,
permanent lighting.
when the committee, me and the committee look at that again and think about some language that would be more like public education, like we're gonna do with the design guidelines on the ridge line.
Instead of an ordinance change.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've marked it so we go back and look at that again and see if we can make it just help
Tweak it.
people want to do the right thing rather than regulate.
Recommendations.
Yes.
Yes. Tweak it a little bit.
Thank you, Tara.
That's what we're looking for is where did we go too far?
So
If I may speak, we missed 33 continue efforts to preserve lands on and around Mount Major.
Right.
Do we have anything where if somebody gets hurt and own fire department goes up, are we covered like the state does or anything?
I mean, we respond because it's an incident in our town. It's
Right,
on-
but
and there's 3 property owners up there right now. There's the Forest Society, there's Alton Bay Realty Trust, and the state of New Hampshire.
right, but who absorbs the cost?
The town pays for
Town.
it, just like anything else. If we have a fire, we respond to a fire on somebody's property, town pays for it. We have to go and rescue somebody from anywhere, town pays for it. Well, your
So it
insurance.
don't make any difference whose land they were stepping on.
yeah, which is
No.
kind of ridiculous if it's our guys or people, personnel that have to go up the mountain. We should get a little bit of that through a kickback, I would think, but
A little bit of what?
like when you buy your hunting license, or you can get a hike safe card, it's like, what, $35, I think?
The state, you go anywhere is on state property. You gotta either buy a
The hike safe
permit.
card,
Mhm.
for the day or buy
Right.
one for the year or.
Right.
Yeah, so they don't charge anything. They just do donations. The Forest Society does up there.
Do they do pretty well on it, or is it something that?
It's not been
None.
bad. I think sometimes they get like $600 a week or something like that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but it's 7:30 already, so we still have a couple of pages to go.
Just just something for Lee to be familiar with, I think it was 1984, the town voted to instruct the Conservation Commission to focus on conserving lands around Mount Major, and that was it.
Oh, I got no problem with
Yeah,
conserving it,
But
I
that's
mean,
where that came from originally, and that was a warrant article. And that was at the time they established the current use allocation that we get today. So,
because the only reason I mention it is because we're going from what? Back in, at the days you're talking, 50 people a weekend going up there to what?
A gazillion.
Hundreds and hundreds.
I think you
Relatively
should
good
Hey.
number, right?
So if they
A
had
lot.
to buy a permit for $1.50 or something,
it attracts so many young people. You should open a brew pub near there, and you do very well.
Open a what?
A brew pub. A Peaks to Pints.
Yeah.
So that brings us to 37. Now we're into land use. So then 38 and going forward, questions, which I'm sure.
I'm working on 38.
Okay,
And,
okay, we'll give
trying
you
to
a
get it
moment.
from my head here.
Mhm.
Did you see the map, Roger? Goes with this?
I did when I was going through here because it was always in the fall. So it looks like that encompasses 2 different things. I mean, because I heard of one thing was like zoning changes. So this is food consideration, including zoning districts and their boundaries. So another one wants to change the boundaries.
Yep.
It's exactly the tool for shaping future growth.
Yeah, so this list of bullet pointed items are all zoning changes.
Sorry, say that again?
The ones with the stars on them are
Zoning.
zoning.
Right, so what I think is your 38 is, and the ones with the stars under is all really one one set of zoning changes. That's all the zoning changes altogether.
So the next couple pages, if you guys want to take a few moments to read through them, or through a few.
And it
And
might be helpful if you can drag out the map in chapter 5.
Which would be in chapter 5.
38 didn't have a star.
38's the start of it, and the one subsequent under it are go related to it.
In chapter 5, or is it in?
The 38 is introducing this list of zoning changes.
No.
What page you talking? 5.5, 5.3.4,
412.
4.12?
Well, that's the map.
Oh,
Is that not the map?
This is,
I have
nope,
this.
this one.
512?
This is the map.
4.12, she
Oh, there it
said.
is, sorry. I didn't know what it
I have a 4.12, you.
No, but I got a 512.
Well, it changed numbers when we added the historic section. That's why.
In my packet, it's 416, and it looks like this.
Looks like this.
No, that's the current one.
Right.
Go to the next
This
one,
one,
a little further on.
Oh,
Is there, oh, okay, so 2 more pages. Sorry, 420.
Titled
420?
Future Land Use Map.
Yep.
oh, there it is. This one.
Yes.
Oh, got it.
420. I think you're still on the colored one.
120.
Future land use map.
I go from 3 to 5.
Right, it's on page, it's 520.
5,
Looks like 520.
520, not
520.
520.
Sorry, mine says 420.
420, sorry, 420.
Oh, okay.
Chapter 5, 420.
No, I think they
That
have
was-
520.
Yours is 5, okay, mine says 420.
Mine does too, but it's okay.
All right.
That's because we added historic resources in front of the land use.
Okay.
Okay, so in my reading, you want to get rid of the residential commercial. So does this map here already get rid of it?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it here.
Right.
Right.
So where was it?
So if you go back a couple pages to, I believe this one.
You'll see it in there.
Here we
Is
go.
what it
again.
was. So it should be 2 pages behind, and then you can go back and forth.
See this page here, Roger?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Shows the
I'm on
residential
it now.
commercial,
yeah.
okay?
So that looks like most of town, residential, commercial.
No.
No, but
I see the tip of the bay, and it's on both sides of the residential, commercial is the bright orange.
Right, but you all
Mostly the
around
village
that
area.
green.
What?
It's mostly the village area.
Just the village area.
Yeah, all that green around the orange, that's the rural zone.
Oh, well, I'm not talking about the rural zone. I'm talking about the residential, commercial.
It's
That's what you
that,
want.
it's that dark orange.
That dark orange.
Mhm.
It's comes down the bay. Or is,
No.
Oh, that's a
No,
light-
no,
that's a
no,
light
no,
orange.
no,
No,
no.
it's
There's a
actually-
light orange and there's a dark orange.
okay.
Yeah, it's
the
hard to
dark
tell
orange.
the difference. The dark orange is like real in the nitty gritty
Like a little
middle.
triangle?
Yes, yes. Look at
yeah.
the chart to the right. Did you see the different
Sorry.
colors in
Okay, I
orange?
can see it now. I can,
Oh,
so
turn
that's
lights
it.
on.
That,
Yeah.
is that the extent of it? Or is there a spot oh yeah, there's another spot up here.
Hey, look at that.
Hey,
Oh, hey.
Thing you came,
orange.
Drew.
Now I can
like
see.
Dawn's
more.
on Marblehead. Okay,
Thought I was going colorblind there. for a minute.
so,
Sun going down.
so the advantage to, so you're changing it from residential, commercial to commercial.
And I'm gonna let Tara explain all of these, because she is just a wealth of information when it comes to it.
So right now, you have one zoning district with all different community characters going on in it. And one of the things we heard in the survey results was that people really wanted the character of Alton Bay protected and the character of Alton Village protected. Those are in one zoning district. And the same zoning district includes some of the more big boxy feel commercial development that you have going on. So what we're saying is have it be 3 different kinds of zoning districts. Zone Alton Bay for tourism and water-based recreation, have Alton Village for village type businesses, and have another commercial district where you encourage the kinds of commercial activities that need more land use and kind of, I'd say the things that people drive to rather than might walk to in a village. So that's these first few start items.
Okay, so just so I can understand this map here, does C stand for commercial?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the legend off to the next, to the
See
right of the
it,
map.
Well, no, I know it, but I see rural zone. And there's Cs in the rural zone.
No,
Oh, the
the,
Cs are in the commercial. That's why it's a C.
There are some Cs that were.
So there's no lines that delineate what,
not right now.
Not right
oh,
now.
okay, all right.
This is,
But there might
That's
be some
confusion.
I'm
Cs
looking
that-
at roads thinking, okay, all right, so there is no lines.
it's a concept at this point.
Not
Is there
yet.
lines if I go back here? No.
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 So
there's no
basically
lines.
from Alton Traffic Circle all the way up to the town hall is considered commercial.
Well, it would be from Bay Hill
how it
Road,
all-
from Bay Hill Road on the east side,
Yeah,
down to the traffic circle,
Yep.
all on the east side of 28.
Supposed to be on both sides from the circle up to the
Yeah, I mean, you've got the village,
grass store.
you've got Alton Village, she's got showing Alton Village store, like where Abishans is and. Alton-
I thought that was Alton Village,
Alton Village. excuse me.
Alton Village, yes.
not Alton Village store.
No,
Oh,
Alton
it's the
Village.
village.
It's
our
Alton
town
Village, and then you see AB Alton
But
Bay.
both sides of Route 11 up from the traffic circle all the way up through to here is zone commercial, if I'm correct. That's how it was back years ago.
Take a look on the map, you'll be able to.
I think
see
it still is.
Well, the reason I say that is because Mrs. Lee's husband and my father helped put that into commercial property on both sides of the road back when they was on the
Oh,
selectmen board.
According to the first map, it looks like it's only on one side. Am I reading that correctly?
Mm,
Well, that's the
Right
way I
here.
looked at that map. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
in
it
the
actually
large
does
version of
look-
the Map, it looks that way with an occasional
It does.
finger that sticks across.
correct,
Hmm.
correct.
So going from like Bay Hill Road down to the circle, we're proposing that would be all commercial down
Commercial.
where Hannaford's is, down where the currently commercial. Not any higher than Bay Hill Road. Then coming down on the other side of, this is just what it looks like, okay?
It is higher. than Bay-
What?
It was going to be considered higher than Bay Hill
Yeah,
Road.
but this presentation is,
Okay.
it stopped there. And then it goes over on the other side of the Merry Meeting River, where River Run Deli is, Water Industries and so forth, up to, what's the name of that road that has the trailers on it, just after the cemetery on the right?
Suncook,
Emerson
No, up on
No,
the right.
on the right,
Eileen,
No.
It's Eileen.
town
It's
line
not a
road.
road, it is a road, but right as you start
Oh,
to
the storage
ascend the whole, yeah,
containers.
the storage containers are
so it
down
goes
there.
as far as
Where
there,
George Gupatos is down there.
and then it goes out through behind the high school, all the way over to Route 140.
Is commercial
Yeah. Is an idea.
all the way to one.
I didn't expect you to react
Jump
like
through.
that. Damn it.
did you get them?
Anything in the house is fair game.
And obviously, like, in the village area, we're pretty shy on land space for business. So this was us looking for other areas that had space that would do well for commercial use.
So how far back does that go? I mean, Old Wolfboro Road, how would that fall?
It's something you have to figure out how far back it would go. It'd be some reasonable distance that would
So basically,
accommodate.
what you're trying to do is increase the commercial.
Yes,
zone.
Yeah.
yes.
And that's where
Yes,
you
and-
are. That's where
Increase
you
And
that
are.
a bit.
yes, and when Tara first explained it to us, she said, right now, we're like an open window and we have a whole slew of exceptions that you have to go through. And this just kind of helps narrow it all down a little bit.
So it
So
should be
it
easier
made
to.
really
yeah,
good sense.
yeah.
Well, where I was
We
talking
were
was
discussing it.
Route 11 right here.
Mhm.
Right, that's,
Both sides.
well,
Our
this
zone
in here,
commercial.
this is the village.
This is all part of it.
What I'm saying is from here to Alton Traffic Circle on Route 11, isn't both sides commercial
It's the,
except for the cemetery?
Well, you don't have a commercial district right now, though.
yeah, we
That-
don't, it is-
Right, that.
That
you
was
don't-
zone commercial back, like I said,
You don't have a commercial district
we're done.
zoning.
on the map, we don't have one.
You don't have a commercial district right now. That's part of the point here.
Right, we have a blend, this residential, commercial.
That's,
Right.
that's
Right.
correct.
The Dunkin'
I was just gonna
Donuts
say,
is-
it's blended in.
Right.
And we're recommending you.
That's
take-
not, that's a commercial.
It's residential, commercial.
And
Right.
what we're recommending is you carve out Alton Bay, you carve out Alton Village, and you make some areas around it actually commercial.
So instead of having residential commercial from here, down to the traffic circle, this will be the Alton Village District, which will be allowed for mixed use like you got today. You're gonna have some residences and you're gonna have some businesses. Out around it, we get pure commercial, which would be a lot easier for a commercial company to come in and build something.
Understand, however, that DOT has regulations on access.
Access, yes.
Right.
True.
But we're just looking to align our
Expand.
zoning. Yeah,
Expand the commercial zone
Zones,
out a little further than the village.
almost like what Rochester and Farmington's doing. Look at what they're
Yeah,
doing in Route
but
11.
Yeah.
Not like that, I hope.
No,
Well, no, but that's what's gonna happen.
No.
no, not with the restrictions on 28.
The trick is to learn from others.
Right.
And there will be other recommendations about setbacks and boundaries.
Right,
with-
boundaries. I mean,
And what
technically, we already,
And what the commercial zone would contain, for example. One of the things that we wrote in here is that any businesses that we would like to encourage in town should be something that the town needs, not something that somebody else needs, okay? Something that the town needs, and also something that would provide good employment for local people as well. So you're going to try to focus towards that.
so we have a lot of asterisk zoning to go over, so
Yep.
we could just maybe start going down and answering any questions you guys may have. So,
So that commercial district is described in there.
Mhm.
And what I just waved my arms at and described is described in general in that big block on 42. Now, Ellen Lamper Road, that's what I was looking for.
So is 42 what we just discussed? Is that?
Right.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
All right,
Yes.
so that brings us to 43.
yes.
So
Mhm.
that's a red light. Eliminate the remaining rural residential.
Right, and just go rural at that point.
Well, there's things that you can do in the rural residential that you can't do in the rural, and vice versa.
Yeah, so those would have to be
changed.
changed.
So you're saying somebody like me that's got a business at my house, I wouldn't be able to do that now?
No,
No,
because it's described in there that, home-based businesses could be there. There could be things that are, that require, bigger chunks of land. You could even have a campground in the rural district.
and we also will still have
So-
exceptions.
Okay.
This is just trying to, so.
No,
I-
I'm just asking because.
No, no,
This is
I-
why we're
I-
talking about to
I-
expand
I-
this,
Because I've
Absolutely.
got my business at my house.
to encourage.
So
Yes.
the
Right.
zoning changes never affect something that's already there.
On
you
another
go.
page, you're saying, well, we don't want this kind of business, and we don't want this business, and we don't want that business. I read that in there too. So you want to make everything in the rural, then you're going to tell you what kind of a business you can have.
Yeah, actually, that's my recommendation based on the survey results, because we saw a lot of people saying that the rural didn't feel so rural because everything could happen in it.
Okay, so now you want to get rid of the residential rural where maybe you could do that, make it all rural, so now you just wiped out possibilities for people.
Well, at the same time, expanding the commercial district and having a real commercial district.
There's nothing in the commercial, there's nothing. You can call it commercial, but it's done, it's spent,
Mhm.
there's nothing.
Well, not if we expand it over to 28.
You can't, there's no driveway cuts on 28.
There can be,
Well,
can be. As long as it's off a road that's already existing or a driveway that's already existing to get into a back lot.
well, that's not a cut. That's a-
Okay,
that's a-
and
that's
get into a
existing.
cut. And so there is possibilities of developing a few businesses in that area coming up 28.
You started to say something to me, Jessica?
Yeah, and then Tara stated what I was gonna say, that if you had an existing business, if changes take place to the zoning ordinance, that doesn't affect
Yeah, no,
something that's
That's
already
grandfathered.
existing.
That's a given, but
That's a
All right,
given,
but
I
I say-
realize that, but what I'm saying is, like on my road, there's a lot of people that got businesses up through there that, and more people are building and more people are opening small businesses, small garages and I have no problem with that. But the way it's stipulated now, you're saying you're gonna take that away from them.
no, as long as you do it before they drop the axe on you. If it's there, no problem.
Are they home
This
business?
definitely has to be worked on.
If they enact this nixing of the rural residential,
They issue, by the
Yeah,
way.
they is you, by the way. Yeah.
But are they home businesses?
excuse me?
Are they home businesses?
Well, I would say lesser a home business. But
They're everything from, there's small trucking companies there. There was a school bus company up there above my house. And they had, I don't know, 6 or 8 school buses. There's a machine shop up there. There's
You know,
2
it'd be-
trucking companies. There's
you
the
know, what might be
process.
helpful. Have you had a chance to read 47 all in its entirety?
Well, I'm just concerned about taking away the rural.
yeah,
But
that's,
read about 47, because that's what would be in the rural zone, the way we've thought it out so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the kind of conversation you want to have to write the actual zoning amendments, to make that list of businesses that would be allowed in the rural zone. And to decide where to draw these lines. That's why we don't have lines on the map.
But still, you're saying that you gotta be permitted. Again, I wasn't permitted to I got a permit to build my garage.
Mhm.
And I got a permit to run my logging company and my cordwood processing business out of there. But now you're telling me I gotta be permitted. And so and then you keep saying special exemptions. But you could turn around and say, well, no, your cordwood process is gonna make too much money, and then you're gonna have cordwood piled up in your field and it's gonna be an eyesore, or,
Yeah, didn't we just go through some guy who wanted to build cars out of his house?
Yeah.
And he had to, that was recently, and he came before the board, and he had to put up a sign, right?
Yep.
So that's in place right now. If you wanted to open your cordwood business today, you'd have to do that.
yeah, but what Roger was saying is once you eliminate the residential commercial, now you can't.
No, not necessarily.
And then up here, you're saying now you have to be permitted.
Well, I mean,
Well, you're losing sight though we're trying, my understanding is we're trying to take a step back and make a global look at this whole thing. And if you have a rural zone, rural residential currently, are trucking companies, school bus companies, are those appropriate for what would be a rural residential setting? And,
But what right do you have?
everybody
telling
wants the
me-
old time feel. That's, Christ, they were here before all the Flatlanders.
yeah,
What
but
right do you have to tell me what I can do on my 300 acres if I want to set up some type of business?
So Virgil resigned.
the zoning laws.
No.
But
No, what I'm saying is like at my house,
Mhm.
I built a garage, I got the permits, they passed the permits,
Right?
and then I went into my own trucking business.
There's no good reason to get rid of the residential rural.
No, I'm not gonna,
it's, I think that it almost seems to me, and when I first came to town, and saw these residential, commercial, rural residential, it's like somebody couldn't make up their mind. So they kind of tried to
Mhm.
smooth it over, and
So it wasn't so
like
cut and dry.
Like my cousin, he started a machine shop. It was just him and one other person running a machine shop out of his house, out of his garage. Now he employs on my street, he employs, I think, 12 or 14 people. He's got, it's
Okay.
as quiet as can be going by. So what I'm saying is, he just started out as a little business. You guys take this thing out.
Right, but
Eliminate
so
rural.
this, again, But, okay, so on the flip side of that, up in the shores where it's like a quarter acre per piece of property and people are running garages. And
We're talking rural. Where is there a quarter of an acre of property in a rural area?
Around Sunset Lake.
Sunset Lake at the top.
Sunset Lake?
Yeah.
Now you're getting in around waterfront area.
No, up above all that area that was developed into those little lots.
I thought there was a minimum lot size.
Well, that was,
When those were
that was,
developed.
But so this is what I'm saying, right? So what I'm saying is, so just like your business and your cousins or whoever's business, if it's a pre-existing business, nobody's gonna kick us out of where we're at. But going forward, I can't say that I would want to move to Alton Shores and have my neighbor open a garage. I mean, I'd be pretty upset. You know what I mean? And because it's in the rural and it's, you can kind of do whatever.
first of all, he's on a non-conforming lot. So he's got more businesses. He's got more problems than opening a business. It may be, he may have a lot, but it's a non-conforming lot. So he's got all kinds of hurdles to get over, and people and neighbors, and his problems are just begun on his quarter acre lot.
But what I'm saying is in my area, like in my road, up on my road and in my area, isn't there a 2 acre minimum?
Mhm.
So on 2 acres, a guy can't build his house and then a little garage or do detailing on vehicles or something like that without having.
So
to come
again,
to
I
get a
believe that
permit?
this was just trying to be more direct about the zoning, but you still have all your exceptions, just like you had before. Where my understanding
You're
when we
still
discussed
saying
it,
permitted.
Permitting, it's still,
You're still
special
permitted.
exception means I have to apply, I have to pay this, I have to pay that, I gotta go here, and somebody maybe will let me do it.
And I'm telling you right now, you're gonna get kickback like you
Mhm.
can't believe from
I'm
people
sure there
in
would
our
be.
area. Not in just my road I'm talking in the whole.
Well, that's,
So what you're saying-
that's one of the issues. I mean, you can leave it, you can take it out, you can do
You
whatever you
can leave it,
want
take
with
it out,
It-
or
it-
reword it, just take out special exception and permitted uses and work on,
Leave it any way you,
Rule
leave it,
and-
leave it any way you want, just send it on.
work on a new way of describing how this ordinance would work.
It'll get nixed to
It's
the
gonna-
next.
It's gonna get shot down anyways.
You've gone down a bit of a rat hole here.
No, you know,
In that, one of the primary things that came out of the questionnaire was to preserve the character of the town. Now, if we have all kinds of, again, helter-skelter development going on without any control whatsoever, we're gonna lose that character. So what we're trying to do is preserve it in the plan in such a way that it can be managed.
yeah, but
And
we're
if
not-
the management includes getting exceptions, if you want to go outside of what the guideline is, so be it. But if we don't have any control whatsoever, we're out of there. I mean, we lose the town.
Yeah, what Tara pointed out is right
The
now.
greatest part of the town is the rural zone. You've already got it. The residential rural zone is a small part. You're not, it's
No,
not like you're.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there has to be some kind of control, some kind of control. I'm not saying it has to be rigid or anything like that, but if you have no control whatsoever, and
So-
it will be out of control.
No, you won't.
so I'm just going to call point of order on this particular instance, and these are all conversations we've had amongst our own committee. This is not like, so
This
we
isn't etched in
welcome it,
stone.
absolutely, absolutely. But if we're gonna kind of be, we can move on.
If I,
because-
one more question.
Yep.
He says he put out a survey.
Yep.
Right.
Where did you put out the survey? I never got it at my.
Everywhere.
mailbox.
800
went everywhere.
800
It
people
was mailed
responded
to
to
you.
it. It was very
It was
well
in the
responded
paper,
to.
it was online.
There was
it
a s-
everywhere.
Survey went out everywhere.
I didn't get online until about a year ago.
It
when
was in the paper, it was mailed out.
I don't get a paper.
It was
was
pamphlet,
mailed.
well,
Well,
But what I'm getting at is,
Well, I don't know, but I know we had over 800 people respond, and that's more than the number of people that come out to vote. So we try very hard to go according to, and
well, put
to this.
that right on the next vote.
Ballot.
down and I'll bet you it's gonna be,
And that's fine.
Shot
Again,
down.
like that, we are just discussing it. It came up.
Yep.
Tara obviously works extensively on master plans with towns. She writes RSAs for the state, things like that. So when it was brought up and we were discussing it, it made sense. We discussed it, it went in. But again, that's why we have you guys here. So then we can go over it with you and then just see where we go. And whether it stays or not, we just want to see your opinion so we can move on, so we can get it done.
And I-
Honestly.
Barnstead just tried that not too long ago.
Mhm.
And they've tried it 2-3 times and it got shot
Yeah,
down so
well, and
Okay,
we
fast.
so
all-
if
we're
that
all
happens,
aware
it's
of how
fine.
It happens, like, and how it goes, like, we get that.
Yeah.
Things like that happen, but it's only suggestion. It's trying to come up with good suggestions for the town
Yep.
and how, for every zone. To try to
It
try to
doesn't-
accommodate everybody in each zone. That's all.
It's-
So it's
doesn't-
just suggestions, and this is why we're here discussing it.
It doesn't say,
I wanna
suggestions,
just-
it says eliminate the residential commercial district.
Can I point
Not
out
a
two things?
suggestion.
Hold on, please. Go ahead, Tara.
Can I point out two things?
Yep.
Whole list was introduced with the statement, include consideration of the following. Every one of these is consider the thing. That's why they're worded eliminate, focus, do this, do that, because the whole list is introduced, include consideration of the following. Consideration is the planning board having a conversation when you're all at the table. And if you understand the reasoning for it and come to the conclusion that you don't feel comfortable supporting it, you don't send it on to town meeting. But maybe something comes out of that discussion that is a step forward. And also I'm hearing some misunderstanding about permitted. Somebody is, I'm not sure who's who from where I sit, but
It was me.
well, what we're talking about is the list in your zoning ordinance that says these things are permitted and these things are allowed by special exception. We're not
Where
we're
it's
not
permitted.
talking about new requirements. We're talking about the list of permitted things and the list of things allowed by special exception.
So just to the semantics,
Yes.
not permitted as much as permitted.
Permitted.
Yeah.
It's
Except
permitted.
one conversation that that we have also had is that you guys are kind of missing a zoning permit in your zoning ordinance. So I actually would recommend that you do have to get a permit for a business or any change of use. You have a missing piece of your zoning ordinance, but
Site plan, that's.
where we're talking about is permitted, not permitted.
So if we could move on from that then.
Well, so what, does anybody else, I want to ask Drew and Tom. We've heard from Roger and from Lee. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I'm still not entirely up on, but I always heard that the rural commercial was like a free-for-all, that there really weren't any rules. And
Rural residential.
rural residential. And that's my gist on what, if that's only what I've heard, I'm still pretty new to all this.
That's
Bear
pretty
with
much
me.
it.
That's what I've heard, and to me, this made sense. But I'm a flatlander, so what do you?
Well, no, you're right, but what I
But
will,
you're not anymore. You're here.
what I
And
will,
then Drew?
So, I am all for clarifying the zones. To me,
Yes.
it makes sense to just, and yes, we will have exceptions allowed in certain areas and certain things will be permitted to be in existence. To me, it makes sense. You want to clearly delineate it and
Yeah,
not
it's just
have all
more
these blurry
straightforward.
lines.
Yeah.
There's no blurry lines now. There's lines, there's allowances, and there's zones. We've got them now.
But
I know,
by
but we have
special
a
exception,
What you want to do is you want to restrict more.
But I also think the term permitted usually means fees. So I think that's what you're kind of,
Well, and
But that's not what it says.
I know that, but that's what.
what I was
that's a
actually gonna
perception.
say too is,
And and regulated.
Every year, my insurance company comes out and tells me, you can't have this, you can't have that. Now, I had a diesel fuel tank
Mhm.
in a container.
Right.
And my insurance company come out and said, you either get rid of that or your insurance goes up $2,500. I got rid of it. I mean, I could have went with a different insurance company, but
Now they all talk. You can't. do
they're all
that.
gonna say that. So I just got rid of the tank. So
But-
what I'm getting at is I forgot your name. Tom.
Tom.
He was saying he wasn't sure about different things. Insurance company keeps a pretty good close eye on me myself.
Right, but that's not the town.
No, it's not the town. But what I'm still getting at is.
You're being heavily regulated already, is what
I'm
you're
already
saying.
Being heavily regulated and
So,
now you guys.
Well,
To that point, I'm just going to point out again that we are not trying to heavily regulate. That's not what the master plan is about. That's not what, as a committee, that's not what I've been putting in over a year towards.
Yep.
More regulations on things that I
No.
already own. I don't want you telling me what to do. But I'm a business owner. I live here. I own property. I own buildings. I want to be able to do what I want, but I also sit on this committee for the town. So I have to take the town into consideration. And again, this is just guidelines. There's no RSAs here, and it is for the planning board to really discuss the zoning. But for us, with Tara's guidance of her extreme knowledge of these things, that's why we put these zoning things in here. So just to give you, again, a little backdrop, we didn't come into this going, we just want to restrict everybody, you can't do anything. That's not what it's about. But it's just about having some guidelines because we do have to preserve the town. That's our job.
But if we don't make some of these changes, the rural zone, the way it's set up right now, will allow virtually anything. So that's not what we heard when we got the survey back. Not at
What
all.
was the most people concerned about?
Big box store. Why not? Put it in the rural zone, right next to your place or any place.
A box store?
Like,
Like
Lowe's.
Home Depot,
Target.
Lowe's, anything like
Target.
that,
I know.
Walmart.
Roma Joe's.
Saying, but-
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's
It's
the way
small,
the way
but
it is
still.
now, and this is what we had the conversation with
Stunks would put
Tara.
one in.
She's been doing these for a lot of towns for many years. It's a lot of experience. If you look at the way we have it set up now, through the special exception process, anything goes in the rural zone. We're
And
trying to
as a
fix
town,
that.
that's why we're trying to expand the commercial area to allow for those. And again, we're not telling you if you already are operating
Oh, I
that
ain't
you
worried-
cannot.
I ain't worried about that, but.
Right.
As,
He said one of the big concerns was box stores. Where are you gonna put a box store on 2 acres when that's the minimum?
Doesn't
requirement?
matter. You can.
that wasn't the only concern. There was concerns of preserving, again, I said it earlier, preserving the lake frontage, the lake itself, protecting the water, our heritage, the way the town is built. Most of the people like to see the trails and the
The open land.
open land areas, the mountains, the look of this town, and have small business come in, encourage small business, not large corporations. If there was a possibility to put in a small industrial park somewhere, that maybe would work, would be good for employees and towns, for people to work, anything like that, small things like that. But as a perspective of selectman and a business owner, I got on this committee because I was concerned of where the town goes in the future. So, these are all suggestions. These are things from other people, from the survey and from us. I'm losing my voice again. And from the survey and from us coming up with ideas of trying to make and work with the townspeople, the businesses, and to preserve what we have.
Knowledgeable person to guide us. So that's where these came.
That's
from.
where Tara comes in. All we're doing is we came up with some ideas to try to make everything work for everybody. And obviously it isn't going to work for everybody on every single category. So that's why we're here. That's why we're looking at these. We're trying to go over each and every category and say yay or nay and go through the whole master plan. And then this gets presented to the people. They're the ones that are going to be the ultimate deciders on this whole thing. Okay? So it's good to have your input and it's good. We're not trying to hurt any business, not trying to hurt
No.
anybody or anything. It's just suggestions.
Oh, I realize that.
Okay.
I'm just,
It's a rock and a hard place. Like I said before, if there's no guidance whatsoever, if anything goes, like in the rural zone, we have no say. I mean, the town has to have some ability to tell people they can or can't do certain things.
So I'm just going to move on from this topic because I think we've kind of talked about it and then we can revisit it again in the future, or you can nix it or whatever you want to do. But again, we still have a couple more pages to go through. So are there any more questions on this page? 40.
We were up to 47, I think.
Yeah, we were on 47.
Okay, so
all right, you guys are are you on the new plan or the
Yeah,
old plan?
47, that's where we are.
Yeah, the one that's May 5th is going.
Didn't we just go over that?
47?
47,
Yes.
40, yeah.
So
Yeah, we're
now
on 48.
48, 49.
'49's referring to that picture with the,
Yeah.
This is what 49's talking about. From that to that,
What page are you on?
24.
is there a question?
Now, I mean, all these things really just go to the voters.
Okay,
That's correct. That's right. That's what I just said.
so then we can go right up to, what, are we going to go to 54?
You say 54?
I didn't know you said they all go to the voters, everything with an asterisk would. Wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Right there, yeah.
Mhm. Those are all zoning.
Yeah.
Up to 53.
Yeah, so then we would be at 54.
So those could be recommendations and they could be worked on by Zach, I guess.
Mhm.
And then if it came out of Zach as a recommendation to go to the voters, then that might
So
help.
here you want to push the house back and here you want to
Well,
reduce
mine
the
goes
front.
from 3 right to 5.
Depends, if it's an open space subdivision, you get a bonus for doing it.
Right from 3.
Open space subdivisions result in less road maintenance and, drainage and everything else.
So if me and my brother had, say, 100 feet, whereas you need 300 feet, we put a shared driveway and we both use that driveway, we could put 2 houses.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the idea. So to make it a little easier, right now, we really, I guess you can do that if you work real hard at it, but this would make it easier.
Well, a lot
Almost
has
like
to,
what they allow on the state roads?
Yeah.
Shared driveway, yeah.
yeah, basically.
And one of the reasons for trying to relax some of this stuff in certain places is to provide more housing. We need to have, it's got to be easier to build houses. We need it now. And so if you look at the initiatives that are coming out of the state right now, they're saying we're going to help towns figure out how to relax some of their rules so they can get some more houses built. This kind of goes in that direction. So.
Yeah, the affordable housing is a very serious issue, and our current regulations really kind of limit
Right.
what could ever be done, so.
And I guess you had a grant a few years back to look at affordable housing, and it came up with that one ordinance you have that's pretty complex. So we're trying to look at ways that are maybe a little simpler to encourage more housing.
Mhm.
Are they talking group houses or just individual houses? or-
Could be in.
Yes.
Could be either or.
Either way.
Yes.
Yes, all of the above.
Be a little more flexible. One of the things that was probably implemented in the 1970s by many towns was 2-acre zoning. You know, that some people call it snob zoning or whatever, but it really, you know, because we said we just don't want the town to change that much. We want big lots and everything else. That kind of has backfired in some ways, so.
Well, one time didn't, I heard some of the people wanting 5-acre
Oh, yeah.
minimums.
Some towns have that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was a big drive, you know, back in the 70s to push all commercial out of town. And what it caused was a collapse of the small town.
Yeah.
And so now this whole mixed use is coming back where, you know, you can have the mom and pop stores with apartments above it. And
Yep.
it makes sense. It's
Oh, yeah.
To
affordable.
encourage, yeah.
Yeah.
I only used to have to go to Pittsfield to buy all my school clothes when I was a kid.
So any other questions on this page?
I'm on 56.
Okay.
Wow, you're zipping.
Carefully review and propose zoning changes, ensure the adoption will be consistent with the master plan vision and goals. And that's kind of like what I was talking about before, when I said that I worry about what's written, because now when you start making zoning things, you say, well, here in the master plan, that's the vision, you know, well, whose vision was it
So
really?
the vision and goals was written from the survey, from the 800 responses that we got.
You asked 3 questions on the survey.
Right.
Okay. And you adopted from that,
Right.
in
So-
your opinion.
No,
Oh, we-
no, a survey, people answer questions. And then
Right.
what we did, okay, they had 3 questions. And so one of the questions, people answer, it was 3 questions. It was simple. It was broad and open-ended. So
Wide
people
open.
could be completely honest and we were not putting any words in anybody's mouth. What do you want to see in the town? Connectivity, trail system, mom and pop stores, no big box stores, like no business in my backyard type thing, like,
We kind of compiled all that.
so people, we compiled and then we just broke it down. The top survey results were this. So 100 people said connectivity with trail systems. And so that is what guides this master plan, is those survey results. And all we did was like any survey, we took all those results and put them together.
Yeah, you grab the key words right from the answers.
Yeah, well, I saw that, the
Yes.
picture, the whole
The
picture.
word
thing.
cloud, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tara.
Well, and we took notice of consistency between those results, the past master plan, the all in for Alton,
And I was just going to say that. Thank you.
and other activities and local knowledge and some data trends like on housing and business development and so forth. So it's all of those things. And I'm pretty sure that the planning board reviewed the vision and goals chapter early on in the process.
Right.
Yes. And I would say that in reviewing the old master plan, the all in for Alton results and the new surveys, pretty consistent. The results were pretty consistent.
Yes, I said, notice that too. So what we are saying in this one is if somebody comes to you with an idea for a zoning change, you absolutely should be looking at the vision and goals chapter to see if it's bringing you in the right direction or the wrong direction.
So kind of like what my point is, and I don't want to go back to Lee, I just want to mention the nixing of the residential rural zone. Well, that's in your master plan. So now when you go and you write it and you say, well, we want to do it, it's part of the master plan.
But
But it's somebody's,
Well, the thing is, the planning board, you know, we did all the work with our consultant, put this thing together. And the planning board has to look at it carefully and decide whether they'll go with it or change it a bit or throw it out. I mean, it's going to be the planning board. And then you're going to run a public hearing and get feedback from public, we hope people will come. And then you go to finalize the thing. But we will have a master plan when we end.
Does this get all voted on by the town people?
No, it's only voted on by the planning board.
Right.
Well, you approve it first, but then it does go to the people.
No, each individual zoning change does, but not the master plan.
So any
just
zoning
adopt it.
change
Yeah.
that you generate out of this whole process, the town would vote on. Yeah.
Oh, no,
And
right.
and one other thing, this is not a static document. It gets reviewed periodically over the 10-year period and modified as necessary.
Which is why we
Oh,
voted
it
to
doesn't.
have a committee to go forward. to
Write it
do
now
that.
and it's good for 10 years. They don't modify it.
Well, what we're going to do with it, and this is why we wanted to have we're recommending a standing committee, is that you take a look at it and you review how you're doing against what we said we would do in the master plan every year. You kind of look at it.
So
And-
for instance, when I first moved to town, you guys were starting to gather information for the last master plan. The last master plan is past its prime. You're supposed to go 10 years. And I believe we're on like year
Yeah, it was
15 or
15,
17.
15, 16.
Yeah, so we're like 5 or 6 years overdue, which is why we voted to have a committee go forward to review it. Obviously, we've been over a year in this, we put a lot of effort into it. You guys, this came down from the planning department. We need the master plan. You guys, the town, so when I say you guys, the town has the CIP committee, all these new committees that work really hard to get everything online. So it does need to be reviewed periodically going forward. So all of that work isn't for naught.
But let me clarify something. The vision and goals is good for 10 years unless something drastically changes, like we go to war or something like that. But there's going to be things that are going to happen over the next 10 years that you're going to say, this is affecting where our vision of where we want to be. We need to tweak something. And the planning board has the ability to generate or get rid of anything they desire.
But that'll be
in
the
order to-
ZAC, not the,
What? Well, no.
well, the ZAC, they
That-
come up with it, then you sign it and we approve it.
That's
But
right.
Zach is one of your subcommittees.
Okay.
And so what we're saying is you have a standing committee, it's called Zach, right? And then you have a master plan committee, which we're recommending that you keep to sort of be a monitor, if you will, of all the recommendations that were made in the master plan. Are you doing them?
Well, that would be key,
Right?
because it's a lot of work. And as you well know, the last one was written,
Right, sitting in a drawer,
written and put on the
dusty.
shelf.
Right,
Like
so-
the CIP used to be
So what
done.
we want to do is say, you know,
Keep it
be
going.
honestly, keep looking at the thing.
Keep
and
it going.
And use it, and use it. Yeah.
So you guys can refer to it and then the committee can continue to make sure that the master
doesn't
plan is
go-
actually being done
So we
and actually being adhered to.
So we would look at these things, whatever this table of action items ends up being, okay, we'd look at that. Probably, we might meet like 4 times a year or something like that, I don't know, a few times a year, whatever makes sense. And then you'd say, you know, would come to the planning board and say, maybe in the summer and say, you know, here's some recommended warrant articles, or we think you should be recommending these warrant articles in order to do what we said in the master plan. Whether we do those things, whether we actually write the warrant articles, or whether Zach comes up with them, whatever, is part of the work that we have to do to keep the thing going. Like you say, don't want to set it on the shelf and forget about it.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
When we start talking about changing what is commercial and what is rural, isn't that like what they just tried to do in the state of New Hampshire, changing boundary lines for Republicans and Democrats? Would we have to have the town vote on that?
Yeah, that's a zoning change. That's a zoning amendment the town would vote on, definitely.
Right, so,
Yes.
Okay,
so
that's
what
I
you
was
do,
wondering.
so Lee,
Yeah.
what
That's
you
what I was
have to
saying
do
that
is
we
you
voted on
draw,
earlier.
Yeah,
there would be a
That's what-
map, it would be a map that shows what the proposed commercial district is going to be.
right.
And the town would see that and they would vote on it.
That's what I was previously asking. and I
It's
think he
not
was-
quite like
yeah,
gerrymandering though, I don't think.
Anything zoning definitely gets voted on.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's what I was referring to when I said when the town votes would be all the zoning
Yes,
issues is what I was referring to.
okay, I got you on that.
So
I think this
Roger,
committee, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think as a perspective of a selectman, once again, this committee has worked very hard. And along with Tara, which has done a fabulous job. And it's been prepared for you to look at and go through, scrutinize, go through it and take out what you don't want, but consider that this team here worked very hard to put this all together.
No, I
And
don't doubt
also
it.
consider that we do realize that the zoning is not easy. Like, we're aware of that. We know what the last round was like. So it's not something we take lightly. Again, it was what we thought best for the town with Tara's guidance, with what we saw with the survey results. This is where we ended up. That's how we ended up here.
And whatever we do decide to go forward with is, planning board and this subcommittee that you established, we got to sell it to the rest of the town. If we say, okay, we're going to go with this, we just can't throw it out there and expect that everybody's going to love it. We're gonna have to convince them that this is something we want to do and it's good for you.
Well, that's why one of the things I was saying is just a few word changes here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of words in here that
Let
I
me,
ain't saying people are stupid, but some people look at things and go,
Well, there's certain words that people,
Simplify it.
well, yeah, people get all tensed up over certain words that they just freak out.
It trigger words that get
Yes,
people worked up.
trigger words.
And that's why if you notice a lot of words and verbiage in our document says encourage or guideline, or, it's not.
Or consider.
Prohibited.
We're not, that word is not in there. Prohibited is not in there.
Permitted, yeah.
Yeah.
even guidelines, lot of people think this is the guideline.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
think that's, well, this is the way it is and the only way it is.
And you're right, because the biggest problem will be the lack of knowledge for most people.
Let's put it
I'm
this
there
way,
not knowing, and us trying to convey that to them, like we did this past March about certain zoning changes. Because once people get a thought in their head and all of a sudden it's, off to the ballpark. So it would be our job to try to relate that, but we know that's a hard sell because people don't always understand.
It basically becomes a war of words. is
Right,
what it
and
is.
that's why, and I don't mean to
Really is.
seem repetitive, but that's why I keep telling you guys, like, we did not just come up with these on our own. We took this from the survey, from Tara, from our communicate, like, it was a whole plethora of, in here. So we're trying to relay that to you guys.
You guys know how many people voted from, say, out of town compared to in town? Was there?
they are all property owners
I know,
Property owners and residents.
and residents.
And residents.
Yeah,
So if you
so
own
that-
property,
there was,
reside in town.
what's that?
So if you own property or reside in town.
No, but do you guys, out of the 800, do you know if most of the people that voted was in the town area, or was it all over town, or?
We don't know
Don't
in
know for
which
sure.
part of
Didn't know.
town they
Don't really
were.
know.
No, it was just if you had to own property and pay tax, in town.
but we did
Or
reach
be a
out
resident.
to.
You got away with that?
You have to be a resident, don't you? Not just a property
No,
owner?
no,
you
and I
don't have
said,
to be
or a resident.
For the survey, no, yeah, he keeps saying voting,
Yeah,
but
this was only
responding to
for the survey.
We used the
Just
voting.
survey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
I thought he was saying voting.
No. This was
No,
just.
we did. We used the voting list and the property list.
Right.
So
In
so
the
so you got
property-
both. You got people who are non-residents because they own things here.
Right, so those people could do to the survey, but they can't vote.
Right.
For
right,
instance,
right,
and
yeah,
for instance,
okay.
we talked to some of the people over in Echo Point or on Black Point, and the people that questioned and filled out the questions from those areas and other areas.
We went out to the islands, we,
Out to the
Rattlesnake
islands.
Island Association, we made sure they knew about it, so,
Before or after the beer?
what's, no, but I'm just saying is that we tried to really get everybody
No,
in town to do it.
Has it,
But we do know how many. We asked that question.
what is hazard mitigation?
704 own a home in Alton. We had 442 live in Alton year round. And it was a total of 813 that answered that question.
and only 400 and something of them a year round?
Of the 813 that answered that question, 442 live in Alton year round.
A little more than half.
Right.
Yeah.
and 181 part of the year, but 704 own a home of some kind in Alton.
Because they were business owners, right? Too.
Yeah.
Well, I made the comment at a meeting one time where I said people that rent shouldn't be allowed to vote on anything that's gonna raise taxes in the town. I thought that was-
87 owner manage a business.
So last I knew, we were at number 56 with Roger. So anything from there going forward or anything else?
I'm on 60 unless anybody,
Okay, I just didn't want to jump too far ahead.
well, all those other ones, they all seem, you know,
So
Okay,
the hazard mitigation plan, the one that I'm familiar with is the dams. So like the Mary Meeting Dam and the dam down at the Wentworth Pond down here. And that, but so, you know, if those are in potential flood zones or if they fail, I think both of those, well, at least the Wentworth Pond Dam and I know the Places Mill Dam are considered to be high hazard dams by the state.
But this is talking about the town's hazard mitigation plan that's
Which
updated every
includes
5 years and covers everything, not just the dams.
Right, and that was the thing that I was familiar with, but right, there's a bunch of others.
so,
Stick to
yeah, I
what
can
it's
put my
about.
hands on the dam. So what else is the problem?
Well, as far as hazard mitigation, it's in the
Yeah.
hazard mitigation plan. I believe they talk about fire and
Building in the floodplain and
Mhm.
probably high hazard culverts like we've already talked about. So there's a lot of overlap in things.
and I think they also, don't they talk about some public health stuff in that too? Or not? Tara,
Not normally, I don't think so. But what we're talking about in here, are their recommendations for land use regulations,
okay, right.
which are gonna be things like not building in the floodplain.
So the point, I guess, is there is an existing hazard mitigation plan.
Right.
That the select board has adopted
Yeah.
as the town's hazard mitigation plan.
Should,
So we're just
I
saying
didn't
to
know
review
that.
it for land.
Just
use
review it,
changes.
yeah.
Not to build. in
I'm
a-
sorry, Tom.
should emergency management be included with that?
That's who, yeah, that's who
Yes,
That's who
I
leads
don't see
that
him on
plan, the emergency management director.
yes, they should be.
Good catch, Tom.
Because all the houses along Mary Meeting is considered building in a hazardous area. Because you got the dam holding Mary Meeting River back.
Yeah.
You got,
That's who's responsible for leading the implementation of that plan.
Right.
who is responsible for them dams?
The state of DES owns the one down here at the Wentworth Pond.
Is Wentworth Pond down by the fire station? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other one is, I think the state owns Mary Meeting too.
Yeah, but in between Mary Meeting and where it crosses Route 11, I think there's either 3 or 4 more dams.
Yeah, I'm not sure about those.
Oh.
They're running river things. I don't
Because
know.
if Mary Meeting,
It has to be the
dams
state.
go, it's ending up in Alton Bay.
Yeah.
After it comes down to Alton, of course.
That's just-
Pretty much the
That's all I
state.
Think about it.
So do you
Okay.
guys have any other
Well,
questions?
no, you put a
Comments?
great deal of work into this. I want to say, other than just that one particular thing that I'm concerned about. but,
Yep.
Just a few word changes and stuff like that. And it sounds pretty good.
And knowing how much work you put into, I mean, I feel bad about cutting down places, but I
No, but you
figure
have
I think it's in your favor.
That's the whole
No, it's
point of
good.
this round table is to have open discussion and
It's all good.
communication.
Yeah, you don't want to have a bunch of yes men sitting.
No.
No,
absolutely not.
it's all good. You're
And
looking
that's
at
why
it,
I
shows
think
you're interested.
We don't always agree as a committee, right? But you have to, it goes in and you talk about it. That's just what it's about, right? So
So,
This is why we're here.
so just to go back to, for a second, to the zoning changes, which are big. Those things are
It's
big.
huge.
Those are big things
Mhm.
that make a big difference in this master plan. Is there a way that the planning board would be able to dig into that a little bit more or try to understand it a little more that might help?
and And obviously, the whole board wasn't here, so I'm sure that other people will, from the board will have questions. If you guys could just talk to them about that. And obviously, if you have anything else, you can always come.
And of course, we'll try to get you a new updated action plan as soon as possible. So you guys have it to be able to review. Because you don't have.
You
the
guys
newest
done one
plan.
heck of a job already. I mean,
On the zoning stuff, one of your planning board members was very active in that discussion. That's Tom Hoops.
Right.
Yes.
And Tom's not here. So I think if you guys get together and do have some discussion, especially about the zoning stuff, that would be productive.
Well,
Very productive.
unfortunately, it's a little tough unless we had a meeting just to discuss this.
Well, maybe that's
That's what you're gonna need to do.
To get into this on a regular
Yeah, you
night.
wouldn't be
No,
able to
you
do
should,
that.
you should call a meeting, special meeting.
Just like you
You mean
did.
like this one?
Or workshop.
That's what you should
a
do,
workshop,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
A
if
workshop.
we do, I would highly recommend that we get a map that's bigger than
Bigger?
8.5 by 11.
Okay.
Isn't there always one on the wall?
Yeah,
Oh, they
Not
took it
tonight.
down to put that was a zoning map.
right.
Taken down for that.
Do we have
Do
them
we
downstairs?
want, I mean, what's our schedule? We're trying to get something ready for a public meeting in,
Let them have their own meeting. They
right?
can do their own workshop.
Yeah,
They should do it amongst themselves
really,
without
really.
us.
Yeah, because you got what, three more things?
We have a lot, yeah, and
Well, I mean, stuff that you haven't even started on
Yeah,
yet, or?
yeah.
No, they're started. They're
We're
in.
gonna review it again.
Yeah,
This is what we do.
true.
So we start, we have conversation, we discuss with Tara. One of us has taken on some part of this plan. So like IT, the IT section, Bob did a lot of research and development in that. It goes to Tara. She looks at it. She kind of puts these together for us so they're, more concise and readily, easily read by all of us. Then we review it all again. Then we may ask you guys. So it's a huge, long process. And we do have a lot more to do. So we've already started, but that's just what you do, chapter by chapter. So
I'm
I-
just thinking, yeah.
I was gonna say, if I may speak, at the next planning board meeting, can Jessica and Drew maybe between now and then come up and have a suggestion on when we could all get together, the planning board?
Well, that would take, all we gotta do is sit down and everybody looks at their phone and says, well.
Well, yeah.
yeah, at the next meeting,
Well, that's what
when
I'm
you're
saying.
having a workshop.
Yeah, I think we should
Can I just chime in?
book a workshop date.
Yeah.
Tara has something to say, guys.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be as constructive to have the planning board talking about it in a vacuum without me or any of the master plan committee to explain the reasoning behind things and how it hangs together with the whole plan. I think, another joint meeting might be an even better idea after the planning board has had a chance to process it a little bit.
Yeah, I think,
Bill and Tom are both on the planning board
Right.
and on the master plan committee. So I think there's good
but
representation on both
I will
sides.
agree with Tara. If the planning board can have, take some time to dig into this a little bit for yourself.
Exactly.
And then come and talk to, maybe we could even have just answer the questions with Tara can help. and-
Yeah,
and we
because my
can-
thing is we definitely need Tara to be involved because she's an expert.
That's what I do, but
She should really be there.
What I was thinking of more addressing was the zoning part.
Right,
Well,
Planning
that's what
board.
we're
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
right, and that's what I do. And so the timing is, I think technically you say you're gonna present the master plan to the planning board on September 20th, but you don't want it to be a surprise. By September 20th, you want everybody to be pretty much on the same page and know that the planning board's comfortable with the list of proposed zoning changes, especially as long as it says consider at the beginning, because there are other steps, and especially the public to chime in. So it's what,
I'm saying at the next zoning board meeting, a planning board meeting, I mean, that we set up a workshop date,
Yes.
Yes,
not
good idea.
discuss it, but just set up a workshop.
that's what I was saying earlier.
Right.
Yep.
And I'd have to reach out to Tara and make sure
Yeah.
that she's available because she's got limited
And I
time.
think she just made a really good suggestion. This is to consider our recommendation.
Right.
And it could be in the planning, in the master plan, that says, consider it.
Well, it does now. I mean, that's our
It is.
lead-in, that's our lead into the whole list of zoning changes is to consider these things
Right. So
in
it's,
order to move things more toward the goals of the public.
so then the planning board would consider it and have workshops, and Zach would look at it, would look at doing these zoning changes and work through that process. So you would have fulfilled what the master plan recommended, whether you actually come up with that zoning change or not, or some variation of it, would be the result of that work.
That's a good point.
Right.
So all we're saying is that it really ought to be considered, and you can accept that as to consider it. And then there will still be in a master plan, and then may take a year or so out, and you do the consideration and get Zach to work on it and process it a lot. And then, a lot of the things that you guys were concerned about may go away, or they'll be tweaked, or what,
Well, I'm saying the reason to have a workshop is because where so many members of the planning board wasn't here.
Oh, yes, no, I
Trying to
agree.
fill
In
them
the short
Exactly.
term, yes.
Exactly.
Just to fill them in,
Just-
what,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Was
That's what I was
discussed.
suggesting, is that you guys just get together.
And Tara,
Tara.
Yep.
Sometime after September 20th, you'll have a public hearing. All you're really agreeing on right now is what should be in the draft that goes to the public hearing.
so we appreciate that you'll have a work
Yeah.
session. We appreciate that. And
You know, because Scott said he was tied up with some, with his business.
that's fine.
So,
Well, thank you.
So I think that's all we had you guys here for review for tonight. Is that enough? You good? We appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
thanks a
out
lot. Thanks a lot.
very much.
Thank you all very much.
I missed the first half.
Oh, that was fun too. Don't worry about it.
Incredible. It's an incredible package you guys have put together. It really is very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely a group effort.
Thanks for
sure.
coming, you
Right
guys.
down, right
So-
around the table.
should we
Not
tell Drew
in
that we had
anything,
cake and
I'm-
ice cream before you got?
I'm an animal lover and I don't care. I mean, I hate stepping on ants sometimes. I have a catch basin that I put in and it's basically a dry basin. It's just in case of water. I got little frogs in it.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no.
Put a stick in it. They'll climb out.
They'll climb up a stick.
That's what I do. That's what I do when I've got different places around my house that get a little mice problem out in the field. Set a bucket down the ground.
Well, I know that trick.
But if once there, if there's frogs in there, I just put a stick in there and the frogs.
Yeah, they can climb out.
They can
They'll
climb
climb
up?
right.
Okay, good. I'm looking down. I'm just probably like 5 or 6. I'm like, oh, what are you guys doing in here?
So now that we've helped you with your frog problem, but we still have a rest of the meeting that we have to conduct. So we're gonna move
See
on
ya.
with that, I guess.
Good
I,
night.
I have a suggestion that
Yes, Tara.
we have a plan to meet at 4 o'clock on July 20th, and we don't have anything new in mind for that meeting. I'd recommend that you consider, carrying the rest of this agenda over to that date.
So when is that? The 20th?
I'm here to 4
July
o'clock.
20th at 4.
What was the date again on
Keaton
that?
the following day?
It's July 20th.
This is
It's
for
right
us.
here.
Right, it is on
Right
here.
in your
Yes,
agenda,
yes,
first
July.
one.
And I haven't received any new stuff to turn over for that, so.
Good night, Roger.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
coming.
I agree,
Thank
Tara,
you.
and that's what I was going to do. I just didn't,
Thank you.
I didn't want to overstep until we were all
Thank
situated.
you for coming very much, Tom.
Thanks, Thomas. Nice to
Take
see
care.
you. Thank
But
you,
if I
guys.
may say, thank you guys for putting in so much hard work.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
so.
You're done with us?
Yes. you may
Pretty
go
much.
now.
You guys are free to
Yeah,
free to
well,
go.
the meeting's good.
Take an ice cream.
Question, has anybody heard what they're thinking about having on those commercial properties on the circle? The Maxfield properties, has anybody
Nope.
come across that meeting?
No,
Met and
No, nothing.
discussed?
I don't think so.
Nothing's come before the planning board yet.
It's
so.
commercial properties?
Yep.
Yep, so you were talking Home Depot or those, right?
No,
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 nobody
no.
has proposed anything.
don't tell the
No.
newspaper that,
But-
please.
I mean, there's like, I think,
Don't panic the
Don't
public.
don't go out by that.
yeah, no, we haven't heard anything
I'm
about
gonna
any
have
of
to
the
start
properties.
carrying a weapon.
So, but he was saying they were looking to put that type of store in.
No,
No.
no.
No, we're just saying it as an example.
It was an example.
That could be a worst case scenario in a rural, residential district is.
Right.
That's all.
What would the town like to see go in there? Is the question. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know.
Read the master plan.
Okay.
Good job.
No, what, I've heard from a good source that, because I got somebody that works for them, that's
Yep.
fairly high up. Irvin is eyeballing that 7 point something acres.
Irving?
You realize what that would do to Alton Circle groceries?
Be cheaper
Might get
gas.
their diesel fuel and gas prices down.
Take care, Drew.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Great to see
Nice
you.
to see you.
You too.
Yeah.
Take care.
So,
Thank you.
Feel better. You
thanks, Dave.
guys,
Thank you.
great job.
Right.
And I think that's the quietest I've heard Jessica in the.
So it is
Pretty much.
8:47. Tara has recommended we carry over the rest of the agenda at number 3 forward to our July 20th meeting.
So move.
I agree. So that's what we'll do.
Okay, so can you guys please make sure you, well, you don't, because you use Dropbox. The rest of your packets, can you make sure
thank
you
you.
hold on to that?
Oh,
So that way I don't have to reprint
Right, right,
everything
okay,
again.
Okay,
Can we try to do that?
yes.
Yes.
You guys all have a
Yeah.
good night.
Thanks, Lee. You too.
She's looking at me
Get that packet over.
specifically. I usually do all right.
You do.
So we're,
Sometimes bring your
so
own stuff.
Yes, I do, but
Yeah.
I will need the updated version of
Of
the
that-
action.
that
plan.
action
Of the
plan.
action plan. I think we'll
could
all
you put
need
that in
updated.
Dropbox? Because I didn't see it in there. I
Yeah,
got,
I could use that.
mine was May 5th.
And I'm not going to print all this out at home.
Oh, wait a
I'm gonna
minute.
have you do it.
You know what? Tara, are
When
you
I need
gonna-
a
are you
packet,
gonna-
I'm not going to print that at home.
Are you
I
gonna?
print
But
out-
I do,
I
but I
print-
do keep my
I
packet.
print.
Time
out
out,
a lot of
guys.
my own
Time out. I want to ask Tara a question, please. Are you going to edit the action plan based on what we did tonight?
No, I highlighted a couple for us to talk about when we meet again.
When we meet again. So,
And I made a couple edits as we were talking, but
okay. So what we, if you could just put in the latest version that Tara's working from in Dropbox, Jessica, then I,
Yeah.
'cause
before-
mine's
okay.
May
Yeah,
5th, dated
Jessica
May
usually-
5th.
I
She's
may
pretty
have
good
missed
about-
that when I was on vacation.
Yeah,
If
sorry.
she sent that. Let's-
I might have missed that. All it has new in it is, I think the one general recommendation at the beginning about continuing the committee, and then it has the 2 IT ones. I don't think there's anything else new in it, but
All right, what's
Nothing
the date on that one?
I'll send it along. I don't remember if I did. I was on vacation too, so.
Yeah, if you can just resend it and then I'll just get everyone updated on it.
And
Yep.
and recreation section as well.
We're gonna be talking about record.
No, we have that added to infrastructure, but not to the action plan yet.
Right,
Right.
right.
Right, and it's
When you
still
have
in
the new
progress.
version,
Yeah.
I'll just pick it up, Jessica.
Okay.
I haven't been using Dropbox. It's,
There's only a couple that.
So do we have any other questions, comments? Anything? Okay,
I'm
thank
good.
you for coming. I'm going to
Thank you.
adjourn at 8:50. Thank you, Tara.
thank you,
Thank you.
Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Okay.
See you on the 20th.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Night. Thank you.
And just a reminder that the meeting on the 20th is at 4 o'clock. 4.
4 o'clock.
It's fine.
20th, 4 PM. right.
Yep. It's on the agenda there.
Yeah.